I do not have the chat window open. I am still learning how to start the stream that is. So I'm going to switch the OBS over to where I can actually see a comment. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, I have figured that out. The one window is behind OBS, so I have to click on the internet little squirrely thing, minimize that, and then it automatically drops it in OBS because it sees the open window. So I've got that part figured out. And if you saw the very beginning of the video, guys, I did actually remember to turn on the microphone here and turn off the guitar microphone. If you watch the channel, I have spoke about this guitar. I'm going to let you all kind of guess what it is. Of course, you can see by the name. But what model and what year do you guys think this guitar is? Any guesses on what this model and year is? This is one of my favorite guitars that is not a Peavey. This is a Kramer. And if you can tell, I'm going to try to get the light to hit the finish. There is very, very little play rash on this guitar. I don't play it very often. I've owned this guitar now for about 1.5 years. I picked it up at my local music store, and they were kind of holding it for me because they knew that I like these vintage instruments. Someone came in with this guitar wanting to sell it. They picked it up, and of course, I bought it off of them. You know, of course, I gave them a finding fee. I paid $1,100 for this guitar. It is a 1986 Kramer Pacer Imperial, and it is 100% stock. It has the stock Seymour Duncan pickups, wound by that lady that wears the wild glasses. She was the only one that did the Kramer pickups back then. It has a true German Floyd Rose on it. It is all 100% stock. It is, I would consider this guitar in mint condition. don't quite understand the electronics. I think it's 2 volumes and 1 tone, and then a 3-way switch. It's been a while since I've actually played this guitar. Now the action on the guitar is actually set a little low for my liking. It chokes off the harmonics just a little bit, but it does play very, very easy. And then I'm going to turn on the guitar real quick, and you're going to hear some static. So it needs the potentiometers cleaned, if you can hear that. That's dirt in the potentiometer. But the guitar is what, 30 some years old. I can live with a little dirt in the potentiometer. Any of you guys have a classic vintage instrument like this that you really don't play that much, but it's one of your favorites? I do play it. I figured I'd bring it out tonight and play it a little bit. What do you guys have that's kind of like your pride and joy, you know, non-modified, vintage, 100% stock? You guys have any? Every guitar player has something. This one's one of mine. I have some Peaveys as well. And another cool thing I like about the Kramers, if y'all can see the 2 holes in the headstock, that's how Kramer used to lock in their locking nuts. Pretty sure that was the only company that really did that back in the day, that drilled all the way through the neck to attach the locking nut. Thought that was kind of unique. Of course, it's got dots up on the top fretboard. And you notice there is no shiplap joint in the neck. It is a solid 1-piece neck, bolt on. And then you can see the Neptune, New Jersey Neptune name plate. It's in really good shape.
Ted Talks Guitars said, if acoustics count, I have an Epiphone I picked up in the 80s.
I love Epiphones. Epiphone's a great guitar. That's Ted Talks. Hey, if you guys haven't seen Ted's channel, hop over to Ted's channel. We're all about honest channels here. That's what this is really why this channel was started, because I went on YouTube. I was trying to get an honest review, not somebody just trying to push an inexpensive guitar. You know, oh, this guitar is great. The more I watched YouTube, I was kind of like, you know, I really need to start doing some videos on some of this stuff and really have a I'm not going to say biased. Every opinion is biased because it's your opinion. And of course, you're going to have your own thought on it. So I'm not going to say unbiased, not making any money off what I feel the instrument is, doing a review like that. I do sometimes post a link where you can purchase it if it's Amazon. I think Amazon gives me a whopping 2%. So you're not really making anything. You're not making anything on YouTube either. So I always qualify that, guys. If I do a review, I really try to do an honest review. And I look at how well the machining was done, how well it's put together, and the general components. You know, if you're buying a budget guitar, odds are you're buying it either for a mod platform or you're getting it for someone starting out. And that's how this channel started. But Ted's channel, I've watched his channel. He's honest. He just gives you his opinion and his thought on it. So if you guys haven't seen his channel, check it out. It's got good stuff over there. And you don't hear me very often talk about other channels, but I think his channel offers his point of view, and it's honest. That's how he feels, and he's not pushing a product on you. If that makes any sense, guys. So check out his channel. I see James has joined the group. Good to see you, James.
Bryce is on.
And I see Bryce made it in tonight. Tonight's our normal night, so we should get the normal characters in tonight, which I like. I like to see the group come together.
Curtain scale's on.
Jupe is in. Penagore. Of course, Ted, James, and... Oh yeah, Kurt Inscale. And I was going to say that. and for some strange reason, I was having a squirrel brain moment. Linnell is yelling into the room at me in case I missed somebody. That Kramer has the block on the back. Seems like it was no problem for the 80s guitarist. But nowadays everyone complains about the access to the higher frets. So they redesigned the mounting block. You're right. You don't see the big huge block right here. They usually taper them. But I'll be honest with you guys. I mean, I play down here, and maybe it's because I learned through that era of guitar manufacturing. Is it as good as some of the new ones? No, it isn't. I mean, it's chunkier right there, but does it really restrict me? Maybe right here a little bit. But I mean, it's not bad. You know, guitars have come a long way. And you stop and think about it, how much more work was it for them to come in here and just taper this and angle that plate back on an angle? Who was the first person that goes, do we really need that much meat there? What about if we just sand this at a taper and mount the plate? You know, back then, did they think they needed that much meat and that much screw to hold the neck on? Maybe that's just took time for it to evolve. But me playing it, I don't really think about it when I'm playing it. My hand adapts to it. But you can see the old Kramer nameplate there. And the guitar is in great shape, and it just has a sound. Let me turn the guitar up. I'm going to turn my main mic off. And I'm going to try to remember to do those buttons and be a little more professional tonight. But if you listen to the guitar, I can't even put my finger on it like my older Peavies. There's just something about them. I can go in and get one of my new Kramers. I can go in and get my new Epiphone. And they may even have Seymour Duncans like that in it. But there's something else about it. Maybe it's the age of the guitar, and after playing the guitar for years and years, you get a resonance in the body, and the wood fibers open up. Call it tone wood, whatever you want to call it. It just seems like these older ones, there's just something magical on the sound on them. I can't even explain it. That guitar is it has something that my other Kramer lacks. And I see Linnell's come out, and must be something important.
Pangor says that I restored an Ibanez RG340 that I got in 1989. It's not all original, but I was able to use the original single coils, tuners, and neck plate.
Yeah, she just read me Penagor's comment on restoring the Ibanez RG. The 340, I think they made the 550, they made a bunch of, all those RG guitars now are worth a lot of money. They had something magical about them as well. That's why, of course, Ibanez has re-released the RG series. There was something special about those guitars. I personally have never owned one. Back then, I couldn't afford an Ibanez. Believe it or not, I couldn't afford a Kramer like this either. I looked at the Kramers when I bought my Peavey Nitro, And I think at the time the Nitro I bought was active, single pickup, single humbucker. That was it. I think it was about $650, which was a lot of money for a Peavey back in '87. But the Kramers were running $1,100, $1,200, $1,300. And that was just out of my price point. So I bought a Peavey, and I got picked on a lot. Going out and playing, oh, you play a Peavey. And I would just hand it to them and say, have you ever actually played one of these Nitro guitars or one of these Vandenbergs? They were phenomenal instruments. So when this one come up for sale, and I walked in, they said they had it, and I looked at it. Is $1,100 too much money for a mint condition Imperial Pacer? I don't think so. It's a guitar that won't ever be built again. It's a unique instrument. It has that trans color that it doesn't really show too much in the living room. When you move it back and forth, it'll change colors a little bit. So that was an option. I'm thinking about other guitars at $1,100 that you could buy brand new that would be like this one. And it has that feel, the neck feel that it has. Nothing comes to my mind. So I think vintage instruments there's something special about them.
Short Bus dropped in to say hello.
Oh, I see Short Bus has come in the group. Dropped in to say hello. Gotcha, man. I didn't know if Short Bus was coming over tomorrow or not. I figured he'd be here sometime today, but I didn't see him. We didn't hear from him. So I don't know what's going on.
Ted Talks Guitar said, I just restored a vintage Peavey Nitro for a friend. The Kaler 2700 was a trip, but we got it done.
If you ever need help with the Kaler stuff, Ted, give me a call. I'm a Kaler, I won't say pro, but I've had 30 years experience with the 2700 and 2710. There are little tricks that you need to know. Pretty much everything's from underneath. You can adjust the saddles out. We were just talking about that last night, and forward. That kind of confuses people that you can actually move the saddles back and forth on the bridge plate. If your pin doesn't centrally locate to your neck, let's say you put your neck in and you've got all your adjustment out in your neck, and the strings still aren't sitting around on the guitar, you can move the saddles all the way over, left or right, on the bridge plate. You actually have quite a bit of room, and then you can actually separate the individual saddles apart from one another to increase your string spacing at the bridge to get it to align perfectly all the way up the neck. So instead of having like 3 millimeters off the edge of the neck at the nut and coming down, and you may end up with 7 because your bridge plate is too narrow. On the 2700 and the 2710, you can expand the saddles out to keep that measurement exactly the same. I have 3 Peavey Nitros in the room. 2 are active, 1 passive, that have the 2700, not the 27. The 2710 come afterwards. They upgraded the posts. And if it's a true 2700, that's the first thing you need to look at. On the Peaveys, Peavey made a mistake. The pickup right here is tilted. So this post right here will crack, okay? They routed a little too close to the post, and they have a tendency of cracking right there. The next issue with the Nitro, with the 2700, the posts weren't heavy enough. So as you screw out the post, you'll see they'll wobble. So you can call Dave Kaler at Kaler, and he has made special posts for the 2700. When they went to the 2710, they increased the diameter of the insert, and the post and all was bigger. But what he did is he has a harder material in the thread pitch that you can replace just that post to a harder material that doesn't bend without necessarily replacing the inserts. If I was doing it, I would go ahead and replace the inserts. The problem is the spacing is already bad there, okay, between the pickup cavity and the hole. you really might run into some problems when you bore that out. It's already weak there, so most people get his upgraded post and put in that position. My one PV, the post is bent, so I don't change the action height because I have to do a whole 360-degree rotation to keep that bend towards the neck. If not, if you set it somewhere else, it'll eventually start to roll over and change the action height. So I don't mess with it. I need to call Mr. Kaler on the phone again and have him send me some parts to some of my other ones. But the Nitro was a cool guitar. That it just has a problem with that crack on the body, and you even if you find a body, look at that spot. Usually they're cracked right there. My one Nitro is cracked there, and I used a industrial CA and let it wick in there and then sprayed it with a catalyst. It's been holding. My other two Nitros are not cracked there. So, but that is a weak spot in that guitar.
Eric Ludwig says, I have an old 90 Ibanez RG550 and he loves it.
The RG550. Who said that?
Eric.
Eric.
I don't know. If it's 'cause
I'm trying to see the post here. Yeah, Eric Ludwig. That's if you're new here, Eric. Thanks for joining in the group. We're always up for new people joining in on the conversation.
I don't think he's new.
If you're not new and you've posted before, I apologize. If you've watched my videos, you got to realize I got a squirrel brain. The RG550 was Ibanez's. That was their flagship guitar, I think, until the Vive model come out. And I think, pretty sure the Vive model was pretty much based off the RG550. He just took it to the next step, added the pickup, added some more scalloping on the back of it for the tremolo bridge. I think it was just the next level from the RG50 to the, what was it called, the Vive Signature, one with the monkey grip. I want one of those. I don't know if it's the I think it's the 777. The 555 was the one where the Tree of the Life went halfway down the neck. That was still made in Japan, I think, but they made it a little less expensive. The Tree of Life didn't go all the way through. That's before they come out with the Junior. The one I'm looking for is the Seafoam Blue or Seafoam Green one. I think it's a 777. But I haven't found one yet at a decent price. So back to the chat. So Ted Talks, that was one of the problems. It was cracked. It had been dropped. Yeah, I'm really familiar. I played Nitros for 30 years, man. I pretty much know all the little tricks on the Nitros. There's another trick on the Nitro. I haven't watched your video series on it. I was going to go back and watch it. There's an extra hole right here, and there should be steel plates mounted in the neck. And that steel plate should ride over top of that center hole. And that screw right there adjusts your pitch angle on the neck. And then these tighten it. So you need to loosen these just a fraction, and then loosen these, and then use that screw to pitch the neck back and forth. Like I said, you want to watch how much pitch you put on it. The more negative neck angle you put on it, the more you have to increase the height of these screws. And since we already know the 2700 version of the Nitros before they moved the pickup forward, they already had weak posts. So you don't want to put too much angle on it and have these posts sticking out of the base of the guitar really more than 3/16. Anything more than that, you're going to start having issues with the post bending, and that also increases the stress on the body.
Devastator's on.
And I see Devastator's made it to the group because she just yelled in and told me. Good to see you. I got to take a drink, guys. But if you guys have the opportunity to find a Nitro, they're awesome instruments. And I see Pentagore here. Let me read Pentagore's. And Eric says, yes, I've watched your Firefly models. Yeah, I kind of feel bad I've done a lot of Firefly reviews. Now, we have reviewed Dean on the channel, Jackson on the channel, Epiphone on the channel, Ibanez on the channel, one Peavey guitar. But I've noticed that we've done a lot of Fireflies. And what's funny is my last review was a Firefly that was sent in from a subscriber. And I actually have another Firefly in the room that I actually need to review. It was ordered 5 months ago, and I've yet to even open the box. It could be in really bad shape in there, and I don't even know it because I never opened up the box. But I wanted to kind of touch base on some other things. I don't think you guys will hear it because I got the mic muted. Let me unplug this guitar. And I'm going to plug this guy in. And you can already hear, even with the room mic, this guitar actually has microphonic pickups in it. Check, 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 check. I'm not going to say bad or good on it. It's a $320 Squier, but it has a sound. So I'm going to turn off this mic and turn on the cabinet. Plug the other guitar back in.
I can't really hear you talking.
Sorry. Again, I said I'd not forget to turn on the other microphone, but I did. The Squier has a really good sound to it. But if you paid attention, the pickups in it are actually a little microphonic. Now, playing in the room, that was about 83 decibels. I can turn the guitar up to room volume about 100 dB before the guitar becomes, well, uncontrollable for me. I don't use one of the little, I don't know, the little neck wraps to keep the string buzz down. I think with a neck wrap, you might be able to squeeze a little more out of it. But on stage, you might have a problem with it. But I want to say, I think part of the guitar's charm and its sound are those microphonic pickups. It's $320 guitar. So that kind of puts it in line with the Firefly. You know, Firefly has gotten a little better with their pickups. I will say that from when they were 5 years ago. But they're still not great pickups. That's still something most people upgrade the pickups and put better tuning keys on them. So by the time you pay for the shipping on a Firefly and everything, you're in the $260 to $280 range. Maybe a little higher because their prices are creeping up. That Nashville I picked up for $329. And it's a Squier by Fender. Yeah, it's an import. I'm not saying that, it's American made, but I think we're going to start looking at some of the other brands that you can get in the $250 to $400 range. There's a ton of instruments out there that I think are good instruments at that price level. So we're going to try to do a little bit more of that this year. Try to cover some different stuff.
Jupe says music and gear. I don't know your name, LOL. So, what is your take on active pickups such as EMGs and Fishmans? Which do you prefer, active or passive?
So she just read Jupe's comment to me on the pickups.
She doesn't know your name.
My personal name, Jupe, is Avery. Sometimes you'll see the comment, they'll call me Avery. My other name that I used to go by was Sean. Some people pronounced it Sean. It was Sean. I always pronounced it Sean. But most people just call me Avery. So I'm fine with that. That's what I go by now. My opinion on EMGs. I'm an EMG guy. I played EMGs out live professionally. That was the pickup that I preferred. My PV Nitro has an EMG 89 in it. I'm not a big fan of the 81, what was it, the 85 and 86. I like the 89. You can split the coil on it. It worked really, really good in my PV Nitro because I could pull, it was a push-pull pot, I could pull that up and I could get a real stratty tone out of the guitar. And I'd push it in, I'd get the full humbucker, and it was just a beast of a pickup. It's just like the Seymour Duncan JB. It's more of a jazz pickup, but rock and roll guys like it. The EMG 89 is more of a jazz toned pickup. So I think that's a great pickup. It's not taking anything away from the 85 or the 86 and all the other EMGs. I know they make an EMG 89R, which I have one. I haven't installed it yet. And they make an EMG 89X. Now the X, I don't have any idea the difference between the X and the regular 89. I'm sure it's voiced a little different. The 89R was designed to complement the 89 and be more of a neck oriented. So you would use an EMG 89 on the bridge and an 89R at the neck. And I think they're great pickups. Do they sound like passive pickups? No, they're active. They're very quiet, very punchy. Something else. Now, my guitar was wired to 18 volts. And I did that 30 years ago, and everyone said I was going to fry the electronics in the guitar. I'm pretty sure you can go up to about 24, 26 volts on those before the pickups really start burning out. But you can take two 9 volts and wire them in series, not parallel, in series, and you can increase the voltage of the pickup. And it does make a little bit of a difference. I'm not going to say that it makes a night and day difference. If you A-B them, you can hear the outputs a little better, and it's a little more, I'm not going to say warmer, it's more edgy. So if you want the warmer tone, I would stick to the 9 volts. If you want more of an edgy tone, boost the voltage up on them. As far as the other pickups, I like Seymour Duncan's. You can't beat a Seymour Duncan JB. That's why they still make it. They've been making them for 30 years. DiMarzio makes a good pickup. I know the new Fluences with all the different voicings. I mean, what can you say? It's one pickup, and you get like 12 different voicings out of that pickup with the selector switches. If you're doing a working man's guitar, I'd probably say the Fishman Fluence with all the different voicings. You have one guitar, flip a couple switches, and you've got 50,000 different tones out of it. It's all your perception on what you like and what you're going for. If I was out playing out live again, the Seymour Duncan JB always worked for me. The EMG 89 always worked for me. They're just solid pickups. I've got a Fender that has the Seymour Duncan Pearly Gates in it. They're really warm, full sounding pickups. So I think they would be great. They don't break up like the JB. So if you're playing more country, like a country rock, southern rock type, that might be the pickup for you. You really can't go wrong. There is even some inexpensive pickups out now that are really, really good.
Jackie Treehorn says, I've been looking at getting one of those Nashville Tellys. I had a Fender Deluxe Nashville Telly, but got rid of it a while back.
All right, Jackie, it's the first time that I recognize your name in the chat, so welcome to the group. As far as this Telly, I have not done a review on it, and I'm trying to change the channel up. What we might start doing, instead of me spending, because some of those reviews, my last review, there were some editing issues because it just takes so long to edit the reviews. I thought about maybe even doing twice a month, picking a guitar and just doing a live review on it. I make mistakes, I misspeak, and everyone realizes, oh, well, he meant this. You would just have to get over whatever I misspoke on. This guitar it was on sale at Christmas. I paid $329 for it. I've tuned it. It's been sitting on the wall now for about 2 weeks, and it was a little out of tune. It's not badly out of tune, just a little out of tune. The tuning keys on it are these like Cruson style. They don't feel scratchy. They feel nice. And it's got the pegs with the groove cut in it that you push the string down in the center. So you literally put the string down in there and you crimp it around and then spin it. I think it's like a locking tuner without it actually locking. It works pretty good. So I like the tuners. Are they the best tuners money can buy? No, they're not. But I think they're solid enough to go out and play with. The nut from the factory on this guitar, it's cut well. Is it perfect? I haven't really reviewed a guitar yet where the nut has been perfect. This one's out just a little bit. It would just take very little work, and I'm very picky. Take very little work to get this guitar to fret first fretted note in the first groups for your cowboy chords to get it perfect. As good as a standard fret guitar could be. Because every one of these are going to be out a little bit. These aren't compensated frets. They're just straight frets. So don't let someone tell you that their guitar is perfect, because as you go down, they're all going to be out 2 or 3 cents one way or the other as you go down the neck. The frets on the guitar from the factory, I mean, they're smooth. Now, I've been playing it now for about a month, and when I first played it, there was a little grit to the fret, but they've cleaned up really well just by me playing it. No complaints on the frets. The overall fit and finish on the guitar, guys, it's really good. There is just a slight discolorization right here on the binding from the gold, and it's not bad. It's a maybe 1/64 of an inch, and what that is, that's a break line from where they taped it. But I consider that acceptable at this price point. I've seen Gibsons that cost $3,000 that have far worse masking work than this. There's no blotches in it where it bled under the tape. We're just talking about the crispness of it and how well it aligns to the binding. Okay? It's good. The furrows on the back of the guitar, they all feel even. There's not one drove into China and one sticking out. It's well done. It has a nice plate here. All the screws are even and flush. It says Fender Squier on it. The back of the neck is gloss. It's not a satin finish, but it doesn't feel sticky. And the break on the neck, I don't like a sharp edge right here. And this guitar has a nice rounded edge to it. And I don't know if they advertise that or not, but it has a nice feel to it. The fret ends don't feel bad for a stock guitar. Could you clean them up and make them a little better? Sure you could. But there's no sharp fret ends. It's not going to snag anything. But I do feel it. It's not as smooth feeling as the Kramer I was playing earlier. But that would be something that you could dress up pretty easily. But for $300 and some, if I'm looking at this instrument versus some of the other budget guitars, I would play this thing right now the way it is. Like I said, I think the pickups are a little microphonic in it, but I still want to say that's part of the charm of the guitar, the sound that the guitar gets. It has a really mean sound to it, and it also cleans up really well for playing that rockabilly stuff. It's a Strat I'll keep because I don't hit the volume knob. And one of these pull, yeah. I think that's some kind of phase switch. Since these are all single coils, you're not. I'm pretty sure that's a phase switch where it throws one of these out of whack. And it does have a 5-way selector. I mean, I like it. For 329 bucks, if you wanted to do anything at all to it, I don't know how much the Fender model is. It's got to be at least $1,200. You could put some real nice tuning keys on this and put Dylan Talkstone pickups in it and still be under 600 bucks. And it would be just as good as any Fender. But I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to play it stock. It works well.
Jupe says, what is your take on true temper frets, those wiggly shaped frets? And while you're at it, your take on multi-scale guitars.
All right, true tempered frets. I personally have never played the true temper frets on I think it's Steinberg or something. And basically that's what we were talking about earlier. There's no way to get these notes perfect from the 12th to here. And you'll see it in my videos. I'll say, well, I've set the intonation perfect to the 12th. You can do that. Like a lot of people do it. Or you can do an average. There's 2 ways of doing an average. If your open is perfect, and you're perfect right here, okay? Let's say you're 2 cent high, 2 cent high, 2 cent high, 1 cent high, 1 cent high, perfect, and then it starts to go low. So you count how many cents off you are on each note and how many cents high or low you are, and you go, okay, I have 5 notes high, 5 notes, low, and 1 note perfect in the center. Okay, that would be an average. You'll never get it that close. You'll always have to change the 12th, especially if you start going past the 12th. So what you want is an average. Like this is supposed to be A right here. So maybe it's A and it's 2 cents off. What do you have down here? It's A and it's 4 cents off. So you bring it down to 2 cents, but then your 12th is wrong. So your true tempered frets are trying to correct that. The issue of it is if you've got a tempered fret and it moves this direction and you go to bend the note, now you're bending the note and the fret is going down in pitch. That would be my only curiosity to it. If you play guitar with a piano, you'll start hearing the variation in the notes of the guitar. I think guitar has been this way for, 80 years. I think tempered frets would be cool. Do you need it? No, I think if the guitar is set up close, most people you're going to be playing with, they're not going to have a true tempered frets anyway. I don't know. Maybe I'll change my opinion on it if I play one. I just don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. And part of that sound you get when you play and the other guitar player's playing and you're not perfectly intonated, you get that flutter. That's what your jazz chords. That's what gives it that funny ring. That's the intonation not being quite perfect in the guitar, and the notes kind of play off of that. It kind of gives it that sound. So you may end up losing part of that weird tonal quality you get. I don't know. I'm just giving you some, my point of view on it, if that makes sense. And that could completely change. If I pick one up, I might throw all these guitars in the trash can. I kind of doubt it, though. If it was that good, you'd be hearing about it all over the place, and everybody's like, I'm never playing a standard fret guitar again. You're really not hearing that about it. And then also think when you got to go to refret that thing, I would never want to refret it. That's for sure. that would be a nightmare.
Red Eye is in and just said love a gold guitar.
She come in and said something. Yeah, I like gold guitars too. My dream gold guitar would be a Gibson Gold Top Les Paul with P90s on it. I know I was just talking about expensive guitars versus... There's certain things, guys, if you want a certain sound, you got to buy that instrument. And the Gibson Les Paul, when you find a good one, they're just good guitars. There's a reason why people spend thousands of dollars. I'm not saying they're all good, but there's some really special Gibson Les Pauls out there. And of course, everyone wants one. I would love to have a Gibson Les Paul, a real Gibson Les Paul with P90s on it. Not saying that I wouldn't take one with the humbuckers, but my dream guitar, one of my dream guitars, is a real Gibson with P90s on it. I love the P90 sound, and there's something about a Les Paul, even though they're heavy. They just, for me, I like the feel of a Les Paul. But I also like the feel of a Telecaster. The Telecaster is a utilitarian workhorse. That's what it is. It's simple. It's just a simple guitar that sounds good. I love Telecasters. But if you want that sound, you want that true, authentic sound, you've got to buy a Fender Telecaster. You can get close with some of these other brands. Not saying that. But if you want that authentic sound and feel, you pretty much got to go to that company. That's what they're known for. That's just my thoughts on it. This Squire that I'm playing, it's just a good guitar. Not saying that another company doesn't make one better. I think for the money, you can't go wrong with it. I think we live in the golden age. I've said this a million times. We live in the golden age of guitars. When I was learning how to play, $300 didn't buy you anything. I mean, the strings would be off the neck an inch, and you'd be like, oh, come on. I can't play this. My first guitar was, first real guitar, was an Ibanez Roadstar 2. And my father bought that for me, and I regret selling it. But I think he paid $600 for that guitar, and that would have been 82, 81, somewhere early, very, very early 80s, 80, 81, 82. 82 the latest. When was the Roadstar 2 made? Does anyone know? It was the Strat copy with the real Ibanez tremolo. 3 single coil pickups, but they were blade pickups. They didn't have the poles. It had blade pickups across it. Great guitar. I wish I still had that guitar. So I don't even know. I went off on a tangent. I don't even know if I answered the question on the comment. Multi-scale guitars. I do have a multi-scale guitar. Let me grab my multi-scale guitar, and we'll talk multi-scale. Now, not only is this guitar a multi-scale, but it is my go-to guitar on teaching me how hard to fret. And get it out of the bag here. This is my multi-scale, and you can see it is heavily scalloped. And that much scalloping will teach you really fast if you're playing too hard. I did a review on this guitar. It didn't get too many views. I think the machine work and the craftsmanship on this guitar is incredible. This guitar was made by NK. They are an import company. And you can see it's a 7-piece neck, or a 5-piece neck, sorry. And I don't remember. I think this is, I want to say it's, I don't remember if it's Barbinga and walnut or something. I don't remember what it is. With a maple fingerboard, roasted maple fingerboard. And something else about this guitar, the neck here, okay, as it gets thick, like this is the high E side. So on this section of the neck, it rounds thick and then gets thin towards the low E. This thick part goes cross diagonal. So it's thin here at the top and thick at the low E. So it goes crossways across the neck. And it actually, I didn't think I would like that, but it actually follows your thumb. So when you're playing leads, it's your thumb just naturally follows that change in the contour of the neck. I wish my other guitars had that. I think that is something that a lot of guitar players should do, and it doesn't show up on the camera, but it is thicker here than it is here, okay? And then it's thicker here than it is here. So it goes crossways in the neck, how it's tapered. As far as the multi-scale, it does take a couple seconds, about 5 minutes to pick it up and play it and get used to the scale length. I think if you play multi-scale a lot, the problem with multi-scale is there's no defined multi-scale. Let's say this one, I think this one's 25.75 or 25.5 on the low E, down to 24.75 or 24.5 on the high E. Every company is going to be off a little bit. So once you get used to that scale length and you get used to coming down and hitting your notes, if you pick up another multi-scale, odds are that your scale is going to be a little different by each manufacturer. There's really no set rule like 24.75 and the 25.1 on, Paul Reed Smith, and then the 25.5. It's not really standardized, but I think it's nice. It naturally matches your hand as you play if you watch. That's how your hand naturally goes down the neck, because the frets are tilted. So it's very natural to play, believe it or not. So I don't know what you guys think of guitars like this.
Jupe said the other day I was at Guitar Center and played a Yngwie Malmsteen Strat that was heavily scalloped. Didn't like it at all. My fingers just didn't feel right. Could not play it. It was hard.
Yeah, what you have to get used to. Let me unplug this guitar. The channel is muted. So what you have to get used to is this. You can really over fret. So I'm gonna hit it the way you should hit it, and then I'm gonna over fret it. So you can actually be out of tune just by how hard you fret. And it is way out of tune. And what you're hearing there, it going out, that's not the guitar, that's me. And that's probably what you were hearing. It'll take you about 5 minutes to relearn how hard to press. Because I was playing this guitar, the Kramer, very aggressively earlier. If I play this guitar aggressively like that and dig in, it's going to throw everything out of tune. But what it does teach you is stop wasting energy. You don't need to waste that much energy when you're fretting the guitar. You can come in here and you can fret it easy. Again, the scale length will mess with you. I'm not used to playing the multi-scale, so I'm misfretting a lot. And you can hear I overplayed that. When I go back to that A, I'm overplaying the A. So you gotta get used to the fan fret, and you can hear me misfretting and carrying on with it. Do I think they're bad? I don't think they're bad. If you play them and you get used to them, you can adapt. When I take this out on vacation with me, it usually takes me about an hour to really start hearing that I'm playing the guitar correctly. Do you need that much scallop? Probably not. This one is really deeply scalloped, and you can really cause the guitar to go out of tune really quick by the way you play. You don't realize how much that the fretboard of the guitar is preventing you from overdoing the note. When the string comes down and hits the fretboard, and then it glides between the two frets. You don't have that with this guitar. You're just playing on top of the frets, and as if you push, it really throws the notes out of tune. But like I said, it does teach you that you don't need that much pressure to play the guitar. We're all guilty of it. If you watch really good guitar players, their fingers aren't coming off the strings, but just a little bit. And they're only exerting enough energy to make that note. So if you're wanting to be really fast guitar player with less energy, I think a scalloped board like this would teach you how to play faster and more precisely, if that makes sense. And that goes to show the level of musician I am, because when I play this, I struggle. But I use it as a tool to teach me. I am much better now after playing this guitar 50 or 60 times throughout the year and a half I've had it than I was before I bought it.
Jupe said it felt like I was playing an acoustic with the strings 2 inches off the board. LOL.
Yeah, playing an acoustic. Well, you probably didn't have to press the strings that hard, Jupe, for it to feel like an acoustic. Like this still has the soft feel. And believe me, guys, if I sat here and practiced for about a half an hour, I could get this guitar and I would get my feeling back on how to get the notes right. The guitar is a little bit out of tune, but some of that you were hearing was just me over fretting the instrument. But if you guys are curious in something like this, go back and look at the review. When I got this guitar from NK, it was completely miswired. Half the electronics didn't work. So I had to rewire the instrument. But if you look in here, it's all copper shielded from the factory. The inner cavities were copper shielded. It's the machine work on this guitar, on the seat from the CNC process. It's amazing, the quality. The drawback was the electronics wasn't right. And I'm not even going to blame this company, because they wired it per spec to this switch manufacturer. When I ordered the new switch, I looked at the diagram that it came with, and the diagram was wrong. So the guitar was wired per the manufacturer's specification. Does that put them off the hook? No, it doesn't. Someone should have still checked the guitar to make sure it was properly wired. So you can blame the switch manufacturer and you can blame NK for that. But if you want to get one, I just send them an email and say, look, double check the wiring. I definitely want the wiring to be correct. You've had some issues in the past with miswired switches. I think you can get these for about $500. At that price point, you can get a Hills. And I think Sire just come out, according to the NAMM things, with a headless guitar. So you might want to look at a Sire or the Hills if you're in the $500-600 price point. I own this one, so I'm just going to keep it. Like I said, it's my travel guitar. And there's times, since it is fan fretted, that I'm kind of like, I wish I would have brought my other guitar. But I use it as a learning tool, like I said. It teaches me how hard to fret the instrument. It also came with this nice case. And it is it's super padded inside. So I guess for $500, it's pretty nice. It comes with this nice case, says NK on it. Got the little backstrap thing on it. But as far as fan frets go, I think if you have a fan fret guitar and you've got a manufacturer that you like, stick with it. The next issue on fan fret is, if you notice, the pickups were skewed. Okay, if you call Seymour Duncan or DiMarzio, they only usually have 2 different angles. Okay, if those angles aren't correct, you have to take the humbucker apart and then use the steel plate rail that's in the guitar that you're modifying, and then pull the pickup winds out of that. Just connect your Seymour Duncan or your DiMarzios, put them in the housing, reattach your electronic wires depending on how it's wired. If it's wired so you can split the coils, it won't be that bad because the jumper is wired independent anyway. But you will have to take the 2 coils and mount them in the factory rail to get the pickup angle to match your guitar. So before you buy one, double check the pickup angle. If you're not concerned about that and the factory pickups are okay, you're in the clear. If they're not, make sure that your upgraded pickups are at the right angle and they're going to fit the cavity.
Juke says Guitar Center has the Strandbergs at 2200 plus.
Yeah, the Strandberg. When I went up to Sweetwater, I guess about a year and a half ago during Gearfest, I drooled over the one that they had. It was $2,700. They had it up on the wall, and I didn't even go up and take it off the wall or try to play it or anything else. I know they're phenomenal instruments. I want to stay at a certain price point, if that makes sense, for certain guitars. And that's probably not a guitar that I personally am going to play a lot. I'm more of a super strat player. But again, remember I just said I want a Gibson Les Paul with P90s. So I'm willing to spend money for an instrument. So if that's your instrument and that's the one you want, don't cheap out. If you know you want one, just go ahead, dive in, get yourself a good one, and play it and enjoy it. You got to look at it this way. If you buy a guitar and you really, let me phrase it this way. I want a Gibson Les Paul with P90s. Right now I have a Firefly in my room. Actually, give me 1 second. I'm going to go get it so you guys can see it. 1 second. Okay, there you go. No, you have not seen me review this guitar. There's so many reviews that we're behind on. I just said I want a Gibson Les Paul with P90s, and you're like, well, you've got one right there. It's just a Firefly.
I'm surfing
It I'm not going to say the guitar plays bad. I'm not going to say the guitar sounds bad. I think the guitar plays great. I think the sound of the guitar is okay. It's an okay guitar, but it's just not what I want. I want a Gibson. I want a Gibson with P90s. There's not taking anything away from this Firefly. This is a great little guitar. I mean, it is a gold top, but it's not. Even though this is a gold, it's not the same as the Gibson Gold Top. It's the Gibson Gold Top's a little fuller, a little richer. It's just something about that color, the back of the headstock, everything. The Gibson's chunkier. And a lot of people, I don't want the checky neck. Well, I want the full experience of the Gibson. And the P91's got that chunky 50s neck, like the 58 neck. That's part of the experience of that guitar. This one here is more like the 60s Gibson neck. It's a little thinner. Like I say, it's nothing wrong with it. And you can see there's a seam right here where it's discolored. It's two different pieces. The Gibson isn't. It's one solid piece. It's two pieces on the back here. The Gibson will be one piece. Is that worth 15 times more money than this? Some people would say no, but that's what I want. So back to the point, if that's what you want that type of guitar, spend the extra money, get it, because you're going to buy this, like I got this. Did it scratch the itch of it? I guess it did, kinda, but I still want the Gibson. So I just need to save the money and buy what I really want. And I say that to anything, whether it's a Flying V or a Strat, whatever it is, someone's going to have that guitar that they really want. Just save your money, get what you want, and you're going to be much happier with it in the long run versus buying an inexpensive alternative, and then you'll go, you know what, I should have just saved my money and bought the other one. So let me put this one back, and I'll get back to the chat and read the chat again.
Alien is on, and I can't pronounce this guy's first name, last name Dan. He says, hi, Caribbean viewer here.
Linnell come in. I see Time Surfing Aliens come into the group. Hey man, good to see you. And there's another one. Yeah. I think it's, I'm really bad at production. R-A-J, Dan. And I've seen your posts before in the video reviews. It's good to see you actually join in on the live show. I'm starting to see more and more people that have posted in some of the review videos showing up to the live stream. That makes me feel good, guys. It really does. This is supposed to be everyone talking, and I'm sure there's conversations going on in the chat that I'm not even privy to. And that's what it's about. I don't have to be in on every conversation. This is us going to a music store, hanging out, chatting, and we can have 5 different conversations going on, and I'm just privy to one of them. If that makes any sense whatsoever. Yeah, I see Bryce is at the very bottom. He's the last comment. I have only read maybe 15 comments, guys. So we've got quite a few people in the group here.
Devastator says my Epiphone LP is probably as close to a Gibson as I'll ever get. I put the Slash pickups in it and Gibson tuners.
Yeah, Devastator. I bought the Epiphone Alex license model. Why did I do that? Because the Epiphone Alex license model has got the true Floyd Rose bridge. It's nice electronics. When I bought it, it was $1,200. The Gibson version, and really the only difference in the Gibson, it said Gibson, made in the USA, and it had different pickups in it. That particular Gibson on sale at Sweetwater, I could have got one at $5,000. Its regular price for that model was $5,500. And if you buy the one with the curly maple top or the quilted or flame maple top, it takes it to $6,000. So that means I can buy 5 of the Epiphones, Alex license models, versus the one Gibson. Am I happy with my purchase? I am happy with the Epiphone. I don't know if Epiphone makes a Les Paul with P90s. If they do, I'd be curious to play it, and that could be a good alternative for me. On instead of investing $5,000 on the Gibson, maybe the Epiphone would be the answer. But I did the exact same thing. But I'm not, unlike the Firefly purchase, I feel that I should have bought something a little better, if that makes any sense. It's not fulfilling what I wanted to fulfill. And by the time I put better pickups in it, better tuning keys in it, and do all the fret work on it to bring the guitar up, I got to look at my time and the cost. I'm going to have $500 in it, maybe $600 in it, plus at least 100 hours of labor. If you're into it, great, do it. I love doing it too, but with the YouTube channel and then with work and then family, it's taxing to have a project for myself and then stuff also for the channel, if that makes sense.
You have I'm not sure if this is right, it looks like Raffle Stomp.
Who is it?
Under Bryce's, they were talking.
Raffle Stomp.
Yeah, I think so.
And he says, definitely time traveling. So I don't know what that comment means. Raffle Stomp, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Bryce said we're just coming in from Six String Stinger, and then he said time traveling.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it says 22 watcher. Well, mine says 24.
Now.
So, if you're new to the live show, guys, this is just a hangout. We're not here to set the world on fire or anything else. It's just a bunch of musicians coming in, chilling out, and talking. Right now, the conversation is, if you really want a guitar, should you just spend the money, break down and get it? Or maybe, is there a more economical version that'll cure that itch for you? And there's a side of me that says, if you can find an economical version of that guitar and you're okay with it, sure, try it. But I still think there's just certain guitars, there's just no replacement for the actual guitar. And I think the Gibson LP P90 guitar is just one of them. And I'm sure there's going to be somebody out there that says the Strat, there's nothing like a Strat, or American-made Fender Strat. And I can kind of agree with that. I'm a Super Strat player. I just bought this vintage Super Strat about 1.5 years ago. Nothing nowadays is made like this. This is a 1986 Kramer Pacer Imperial, all original. I paid $1,100 for it. It is in mint condition. I can't purchase this guitar today. And if I did purchase it, an American-made guitar like this, it would be $5,000 or $6,000. That's what BC Rich is charging, $5,000-6,000. The Charvel Americans in the $5,000 range. So guitars like this, if you can find an original mint one, why not? And I'm sure there's going to be someone that's going to say, oh my gosh, you're playing an original Kramer 86 and you're going to scratch it. And there's a side of me that agrees with you. Maybe I shouldn't play it. But I bought it, and it's a shame to let such an awesome instrument like that sit in a case. So I'm going to break it out occasionally and jam on it like we did earlier tonight.
Bryce said I wouldn't mind having a greenie.
I see Balanced is in the group. Epiphone Gold Glory has P90s. Epiphone Gold Glory. I may have to look at that one.
Said it's a single P90 and that's it.
Oh, is it a single P90? Yeah, I want the 2 P90 one. That's just me. I like P90s.
Red Eye bought the Slash Epiphone LP. It actually plays better than my Gibson.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of people say the Slash Epiphone is a phenomenal instrument. So you're not the first person. But again, You hear this a lot. There are good Gibsons, and then there are good Gibsons. If you can find one of the good Gibsons, they're sought after, and you can pick them up. They have a feel, they have a sound. It's that mystical thing. What is it about that particular guitar? And I feel that way when I do reviews on guitars. The purple Strat and the purple Les Paul from Firefly I reviewed. I cannot describe how well those guitars played. I mean, phenomenal playing guitars. Then I question, when someone else ordered that guitar, what was the quality of theirs? That's why at the end of every one of my videos, I always say, if you own this guitar, please post. Because I'm reviewing one. I can get a good one, I can get a bad one. And with everyone that's posting on the back side of the review, hopefully the group, everyone that watches the video, they get a good understanding of what they're buying. And that's why I started the channel. I wanted truth and honesty on these reviews. We all work hard for my money. You know, your money, my money. We work hard for it. We want to know that we're buying something that's good. You know, what's the average? Especially nowadays ordering online. If I order this online, what's the odds of me getting a good one or a bad one? It makes a big difference, guys. And that's really what I want the channel to be. I want it to be that. And then Friday night we do a test stream, and that's when I tested the new mic configuration and the amplifier. Because tonight we're not using the Line 6, we're actually running through a tube amp. And for me, the tube amp is just, I feel better playing a tube amp. The sound, it responds better. This is just me, not saying modeling is bad. I think modeling's fine. But I get a different feel when I play through a real amp. And we are playing through a real amp tonight. And Bryce says he wouldn't mind having a greenie. Yeah, the greenies, when they first come out, they were crazy expensive. I don't know if they're still crazy expensive like they were. I don't know what they're going for now. But I saw some of them going for $1,800, $1,900 because you couldn't get them. They were pretty much sold as soon as a batch landed somewhere. They were sold out. So I don't know what the greenies are going for now. Anybody got an idea on what the new Epiphone greenie is selling for now? Now that all the hype is over, it's been out on the market for a little bit. Everyone that had to have one has probably purchased it. And maybe it's falling off a little bit and kind of settling into its real retail price. You might actually be able to get one on sale. That's usually what happens. When it first comes out, you get this large peak of interest, then it slopes off a little bit, and you can get one a little bit better if you can, a little bit better price if you wait. So if you wasn't here before, we want to kind of show the tones on this old Kramer. So I'm going to turn off my main mic here and switch over to the mic at the amplifier. And I'm really trying to remember to hit the right buttons in the right sequence. So like I said, this is an 86 Pacer Imperial. And there's just something about the tone and the sound of these original Seymour Duncans. There's something about the feel, the break-in of the neck. I did say earlier that the action height on this guitar is set a little low. So for me, I like pinch harmonics. And it's set, this guitar is set to, it's just a fraction under 0.06 on the low E. And it's set to 0.055 on the high E. It's a little low, and when you get it that low, it starts choking the harmonics a little bit. So I might raise the action just a little bit on it, but it makes it effortless to play. It takes very little effort to fret the notes on it. But you do lose a little bit of that harmonic integrity on the guitar. But I love the way it plays. And I think I said it earlier, I don't know if everyone that was in the group then are still here or there's new people. What classic guitars do you guys have that is like, you know, something from the 80s, 90s? Well, now classic, anything built in the late 90s would technically be a classic now because it's over 20 years old. I have this guitar and I have two PV Nitros that are active, one PV HSS, and then I actually have a PV Vandenberg. And then I have a Squier M80, and I have an Epiphone Dot that I think would be considered classic. Now, I think that's all the classic guitars that I own.
Juke says I never played one, a Kaler Bridge, but some say they suck. What's your opinion on it?
The Kaler seems to come up in this group quite a bit. Next live stream, guys, I'll break out one of my Kaler guitars. I like the 2700 and I like the 2710. They were considered the Kaler killer bridges. That bridge is the best bridge that's ever been manufactured, period. It's the best. It's the best, it's the best, it's the best. Just pound it in your head, it's the best. And you know it's the best because Floyd Rose sued Kaler to prevent them from making that bridge. Everyone says it has to do with it being a fulcrum or a lock base and it was a copyright infringement. Well, if that's the case, how come Kaler was not allowed to continue to produce that bridge and call it licensed under? Because it had nothing to do with a licensing issue. It had nothing to do with the design issue.
He means the 80s Kaler.
Yeah, the 80s Kaler. That's the one we're talking about, the 80s Kaler. It had nothing to do with that. Because Floyd Rose said, no, you can't build this bridge. Design one by X standard. So Kaler come out with the Spider. And it was more Floyd Rose based. I still think the Spider is a better tremolo than the Floyd Rose. There's just things a little better about the Spider. It's better engineering. But the Kaler Killer 2710 and 2700, they were superior. If you can find one, I know earlier in the chat we had Ted Talks. Where was it? Ted Talks Guitars. He just did a video series on restoring a Nitro. If you guys want to go check that out. That guitar, I think, had the 2700. What he probably doesn't realize is the guitar in a whole was probably worth, well, that one was pretty well damaged, so it's probably only worth $400 or $500. Just the bridge on that guitar is worth $600. So no one's going to buy the guitar. Pull the bridge on it and just sell the bridge. I've seen those bridges sell for $700 and $800. They just go for stupid money. Kaler's not going to rebuild the bridge. I've spoke to him about it. There's just too many machine parts and the cost of manufacturing is too high. And no one wants to spend $1,000 for a bridge. Other than that, the Kalers with the cams, that's what most people know. The big flat bass that you had to route the top of the guitar out for. I was never a big fan of that Kaler. That's like a cam bridge. I always thought they felt a little soft. I know that you can get different springs for them. I just never cared for that Kahler, if that makes sense. If I had to pick between a Kahler with the cam and a Floyd Rose, I'd go Floyd Rose. Nowadays, we're kind of stuck with the Floyd Rose bass tremolo, whether it's a Ibanez Edge or a Goth or a Floyd Rose. You're kind of stuck with that design. That's kind of what the industry has landed on. And also keep in mind, the industry has landed on what's acceptable. It doesn't mean it's the best. Usually what you'll find is your parts count, because every manufacturer looks at parts count. How many parts does it take to make X? If they can lower the parts count, that lowers manufacturing time, which makes it cheaper. The Floyd Rose bridge and the Kahler 2700, the parts count is 50% less on the Floyd Rose. Cheaper to manufacture. So, cheaper to manufacture, it just won out. It was like the old Beta versus VHS. Beta was far superior to VHS, but VHS machines were cheaper and the tape was cheaper. So it just took off. Basically, exact same thing between HD, DVD, and Blu-ray. One took off, one didn't. Which one was cheaper? Well, guess what, guys? That's the one that took off. Exact same thing with computers. You had IBM clones, then you had the true Apple Macs that had a superior front side bus but had a slower CPU. They were superior computers. The IBM clones took off because they were cheaper. So always keep that in mind. Industry standard doesn't always necessarily mean the best. It just means the industry has accepted this because us as musicians have accepted that quality level at that price point. If that makes any sense. But I'm a Kahler 2700 guy. I love the bridge. But I am playing Floyd Roses now because the chance of that bridge ever being manufactured again is very, 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 very slim. And I think that's sad. If you want something that's manufactured now that I think would be a good alternative, maybe the Sophia bridge with the global tuner in it. But again, by the time you put the global tuner in it and all the little niche things that Sophia makes, you're going to be in the 650 range for that bridge. Is it that much better than the Floyd Rose? I can't tell you. I haven't played a Sophia that long. I mean, I've played a guitar with one on it. I liked it. But I can't tell you how well it's going to hold up. And that's the key. We know a Floyd Rose German with the hardened steel plate. That's a good bridge. It holds up. It holds the test of time. The Sophia hasn't been around more than like 7 or 8 years. So we really don't know what it's going to do. I mean, 8 years is a good lifespan. If you're using a bridge a lot, the knife edge gets a lot of the use. But it's still a relatively new company. Are they going to be around in 20 years to get parts for it? I don't know. And that could be said with Kahler. Kahler, I don't think is going to make any more parts for the 2700 and 2710. So whatever's on his shelf, that's what's available. When that's gone, we'll all have to get together as a group that own that bridge and just beg Gary to make parts for it. If not, we're going to be robbing older guitars and stealing parts of it to salvage our bridges. I'll get back to the chat here.
Curtin Scale said Kahler released the 2700 last year with Fulcrum Spider series.
Yeah, it's not the same. That they're calling it. That's why most people consider it the 2700 Killer. Okay, it's a little bit different bridge. I did talk to the Kahler hired a new guy. It's Rex. He has a YouTube channel, and he's really been promoting the Kahler for Gary. They're not going to make the 2700, the original one. They're going to make the Spider base because it's less parts, less machine time. I've spoke to him many times. I even made a comment that if you make a I would post a thing on YouTube. I could find 100 people that want to buy an original Killer 2710. Would you make the bridge? And his whole thing, making 100 of them, it's just not worth it. There's too much time and too much cost in setting up the NC machines just to run 100 bridges. So that would only be 600 saddles, 600 pins. Does that kind of make sense? There's a lot of programming that has to go into it. Time on the CNC. Then you have to code all the components. You've got to make fixtures for those components to set in so they can set in the CNC so their operation works right. So it's not just the component. Sometimes the fixture can cost 5 times more than the total run of components sold separately. So they might have $20,000 just in fixtures to hold the components in the machines to have them machined. So it just comes down to, can he make money? And Mr. Kaler just feels that he can't sell enough of them to make money. And I get that. But I would buy 2. If he told me $800, I'd save up $1,600 and buy 2 of them. I really would. I would buy 2. And I would send one right to Kiesel and say, please build me a guitar with this bridge. I'll pay you an extra $700 for your time to program that machine to route the body out for this bridge. I want an A2 neck through with a Kaler 2710 in it. I'd love to have the day come where I could do that. But I just don't see it happening. I'll have to settle with a Kiesel if that day ever happens with a Floyd Rose.
Jupe says I don't get it. Kaler seems like a totally different animal than Floyd. Even the nut lock system was different.
Everything was different on the Kaler. The Kaler did not have the little blocks. That was Juke's comment she just read. The Kaler didn't have the little blocks in the bridge where you tuck the string in. They get loose. Sometimes the strings pull out. With the Kaler, the string went all the way through the bridge. Okay? And the locking mechanism was a sleeve that went around the string that locked into the saddle. It was a far superior design. There was no cutting the ball ends off. Even if you didn't get it tight, the string still pulled on the ball end. So what I would actually do is I would feed the guitar string through the bridge, hook it to my tuning key. I would bring the string up to like 2 steps below tune. Then I would lock the saddle nut on the bottom. And you could do it finger tight. You didn't need a wrench. You just take your finger and you just turn the round piece that went around the saddle tube. And once it felt tight, just give it a little turn. It was locked. Bring the string up to tune. Move it back and forth. Make sure you got the pressure right behind the nut. Lock it down. You were done. A lot of people that said they had complaints, they were pulling the string through the bridge and they were trying to hold it tight and they'd lock it. Best thing to do with it, feed the string through, bring it up 2 or 3 steps below tune, then lock your saddle nut. There wasn't a block or an Allen key or anything else you needed. You do it with your finger. Yeah, it was great. It was a great system. And that's why Floyd Rose sued them. And that's another reason why Floyd Rose did not allow them to put a license stamp under. See, it didn't make any sense. Floyd Rose couldn't allow him to use it as a patent number because Floyd Rose didn't have the patent on that style anyway. But the court still said that he couldn't build the bridge. It just made no sense to me whatsoever why that bridge was canceled after a year and a half. It really stirred the industry. It was a phenomenal bridge. But things change, guys. I like it because I learned on that bridge. And I liked the nice flat spot on the bridge. It was easy to mute. It was a nice place for your hand to rest. You didn't have the problem with the fine tuners on the back. For me, it was just the bridge. And, excuse me, I had friends that played the Kaler with the cams. And I just wasn't a big fan of the Kaler with the cams. It was only the 2700, 2710, and the Kaler Spider. And I'm not a big fan of the Spider, but I have a Spider on my PV Vandenberg. It's still a good tremolo. I think it's equivalent or just a fraction better than the Floyd Rose. But I could play either or, the Spider or the Floyd. They're so similar. That's why they share the exact same patent number. They're so similar. If you had to pick and you wanted one to modify, I would say the Floyd Rose would be better because there's more aftermarket support for the Floyd Rose. And I say that knowing that I like the Kahler better, but there's just more aftermarket support for the Floyd Rose.
Curtis Gale said I used Floyd locking nut with Caleb Bridge.
Yep. I did a couple guitar services. I either get the Floyd Rose nut or the Goth nut when I do guitar servicing. I think the Goth finish, as far as the machine work and the color of the nut, I think Goth's overall fit and finish is a little better than even the German Floyd Rose. If you look at the old ones, okay, look at the gap here between the end of the locker. I'll get my finger on it. The end of the locker and the seat. See how tight that is? And that's 80s. There is no gap there. So what a lot of times this little lock will actually plop, 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 because it's not as wide as the groove in the nut. I mean, the tolerances on some of these new ones are so bad. And then look at the finish on this one. This is from the 80s. Look at that high polished metal finish. There's no lines, there's no grooves, there's no scratches. Look at the nuts. The machine work on these old ones, spot on. Now, go look at the new Schaller Floyd Rose. Now, I don't even know if Schaller's making them anymore. Rumor is they're being made. They're going to come back to the United States. But if you look at it, you could see tooling marks in it. You could see where the powder coating isn't quite as good, and the nut kind of flops around in the seat. It's like the tolerances just aren't there. If you look at the Goth, and I don't think the Goth is as good as this one, this old one, but the new Goth is better as far as the tolerance. When that block fits down in the locking nut, it doesn't flop around as much. It's when you go to tighten it, you don't see that block rotating in the housing like the Floyd Roses. You go to tighten it, you literally see that block twist. Well, when it does that, that string is sitting in there like that. Here's your block. You go to tighten it, guess what it does? It bends that string in the housing of the lock nut. Okay? It shouldn't do that. The old ones, right there where that E string went through, there was a groove cut into the bottom of the locking nut saddle that sat at the top. And there's a little groove that string laid in. Then your top lock went on top of that, and then the nut. The new ones don't have that groove either like the old ones had. They're a little cheaper, a little cheaper, a little cheaper, a little cheaper, a little cheaper. And I hate to say that. It just seems like there's been certain things that have just gotten cheaper over time. They just need to go back to the way these were made with the grooves. They were just better. They were just better. And you run into that a lot too, where your radius, you can get an R2. Oh, it's an R2. Well, it's fine. Your nut width is right, but what's the radius of your neck? Is it 9.5? Is it 10? Is it 12? Is it 14? Is it 16? Can you get that R2 nut at 12-inch radius, or a 14-inch radius, or a 16-inch radius, whatever the radius is at your top nut? Or do you have to go in there and manually file out the seats of that nut to get it perfect? These guitars, they were made to fit. If you check the distance off the fret to the string on each one, once you get your high E and low E set, and it's the same by machining the nut, your centers are always extremely close. I mean, extremely close. The new ones, you can't say that. You can be off several thousandths of an inch, from your D and the G versus your E and your high E. That's just what I've seen, guys. But that's what we have now. So I'm not going to downplay any of them. I think they're all great. Just keep in mind, we have to tweak them to make them right. The newer stuff doesn't take a lot of that into account. Now, I don't know if you buy a Sur. I've never reviewed a Sur. Whether that's part of what you're paying for. If you get a Sur with a Floyd Rose, are they going in there and filing out and machining that nut to fit their guitar perfectly? That justifies their price. I don't know. Maybe that's why that price of that guitar is so far above everyone else's. Maybe they are actually going in there and fine tuning all these production parts for their custom instrument. If anyone knows for sure if that's what's going on, like on the Jackson Americans that they want $5,000 for, Sur, BC Rich, all these $4,000 and above guitars, are they going that extra mile using these production components and making them, right for their instrument? I don't know. Yeah, Raffle Stomp says a good file set's worth its weight. It is. I have the Music Nomad full set that's got the yellow handle with the long, it's like the flat file piece that fits up in the hand file. Believe me, once you use something like that, it's hard to go back to a cheaper nut file set. But I would never use that set filing out the metal in a Floyd Rose nut. I would actually use one of my industrial files that I've modified to go in there and groove that out. Even though the Music Nomad is diamond embedded, I wouldn't want to mess up my file for doing nut work for like bone nuts, filing out metal. That's just me. I would get one of my round files out and modify something that I have to make it work for that particular guitar. And Jupe says, when I string my Floyd Rose, I put a ball in through the tuners. Yeah, I've seen that. Now, what's funny is I service guitars, and I've tried to do that twice. And every time I do it, I either cut the string too long or too short to fold down in the nut, and I end up not having enough to really get it in there right, or I got too much and I end up with 5 winds around the post. So there's got to be a trick when you run that through and you pull it through. There must be a spot that you're gauging on the bridge and to cut it right there and put the little hook on it and push it in. I think that's a cool way of doing it. I've just no one showed me, okay, cut it right at the back of the seat or cut it, at this spot, and that gives you the exact right amount to bend it over to put it behind the locking block. I'm sure if I tinkered with 2 or 3 sets of strings, I could figure it out, but I've just never taken the time to figure it out. But I've serviced up a couple guitars that have come in with it done that way. I've never strung them up that way.
He said wind them up and cut the ball off at the tuners, so it was in the same comment.
Yeah, I just never have done it that way. I've always just cut the ball end off and then put it down in the saddle, take my 3mm wrench, lock the block when I know it's down in there properly, and then I fold it over on the saddle and pull it up that way. But I know a lot of people that put the ball right through the tuner, okay, come out of the tuner through the lock nut right down to the bridge, and I guess they're cutting it there, taking a pair of pliers, putting the little hook on it, shoving it down in and locking it. I think that's a really clean install, doing it that way. I've just never done it. I should probably just take the time and learn how to do it. So I'm assuming everyone here is pretty much Floyd Rose now. I mean, Kahler is making a comeback. They're trying to come back. But let's face it, guys. Floyd Rose has pretty much dominated the market ever since the lawsuits in the late 80s. They're just the go-to. It's become the standard. And I think the same can be said with pickups. We have a lot of boutique pickup builders now, but I think Seymour Duncan, DiMarzio, and Fishman, They seem to be the three companies now that we have to pick from. They seem to be the big players in the game. There are other players in the game, but the three big names I believe are those. And I don't, like I said, I don't have a problem with any of them. I tend to lean towards the JB just simply because that's what I like. So in reality, this has probably been the worst chat as far as me reading comments. So I'm going to go back and see what I'm missing here. Yeah. Now, to be fair, Linnell's been hollering them in, but my little squirrel brain, as I'm talking, I'm hearing about 10% of it, so I'm kind of missing out on part of it. So we've got, let's see, that's good to know. 27, that was Ted. And then Jupe, I don't get it. Kaler seems like a totally different animal than the Floyd. Even the nut lock system was different. Yep. Time Surfing Alien. None of mine are older than 2011. So Time Surfing Alien, your oldest guitar you have is a 2011. I don't know how old you are, and I think it's depending on how old you actually are. When I think 2011, I'm still thinking that's a new guitar. That's just me. When I think old, for me, I would say 60s. 60s, 70s. That's an old guitar. Even though I know the 80s guitars are old and 90s guitars are old, I still feel the 60s era and the early 70s. In my little brain, they're the classics, if that makes sense. And of course, the 50s classics. But that's just how I register a classic guitar. And it's just because of my age. And Jackie says his oldest one is also from 2011, a Fender Standard Tele. I bet you that's a nice guitar. I had Off Shandor Music. Back before his nephews bought it, Roger still owned the store. I bought 2 Fender Americans off of him. One blue one and one baby blue one. And they were just great playing guitars. I mean, they were just great playing guitars. Now you're going, well, why'd you sell them? I sold them because of the volume knob. I was constantly hitting the volume knob. And I've always loved the Strat. I love the way they sound. They just have a sound. And I tried twice. Well, actually, I tried 3 times because I bought a Squier Vintage Vibe and nice guitar. This would have been maybe 8 years ago. Loved the guitar, but I ended up selling it because of the volume knob. So that was 3. And then I have a 40th anniversary Squier Strat that I've only played twice. That's in a Fender flight case in here. Need to do a review on that guitar. Don't really play it because of the volume knob. So if anyone is interested in a lime green, I think it's lime green. It's the green color one. 40th anniversary Squier Strat in a Fender case. Let me know. I'll work you a good deal on it. We'll do a review on the guitar and move the guitar on. It's not a guitar that I'm going to keep because of the volume knob.
Ted Talks Guitars has to go.
Oh, and Ted Talks Guitar said, got a jet, but great. Hey, man, I appreciate you swinging by. Again, if there's anyone new in the group that didn't hear me earlier, go check out Ted's channel. He's got a cool channel. He talks honest, and that's what we're about here is honesty on reviews and setups and building and tinkering. So go check out his channel. I think you guys might like it. The kind of people that are watching my reviews, his content will fit right in with you. So go check out his channel. And thanks for joining in, man. I did catch the end of your live show the other night, but I come in the last 15 minutes, so I was kind of catching up on everything. So I'll catch your next live stream the next time you do it. And Pentagore is saying bye to Ted as well. I have a 65-year-old cello. Wow, that's old. And my little Facebook Messenger thing's covering up the screen, so I gotta wait. sitting in the attic in Texas. I'm just letting them season.
He also has a guitar.
In Texas. Now it depends on what area of Texas you're in. There's some areas that it gets pretty hot. And then there's some areas where I think it actually snows in Texas. So Texas is one of those states that's so big, you got a couple different climate zones there. Here, I'm in Virginia, and it doesn't get, well, I was going to say it doesn't get stupid cold, but the other day when I went to work, it was 0 degrees out. And the trucks are roar. And I got a new truck. It was so cold, the battery, when it gets cold like that, the batteries don't want to turn over the engine. It started, but it was definitely cold out. But where I'm at, it usually doesn't get that cold, and it usually doesn't get that hot. We get a little bit of hot and a little bit of cold. We're in a kind of a balanced area right here. And I think there's areas of Texas that's the exact same way. And then the last comment, Jupe, are you interested in the guitar? If you are, I'll go get the guitar and open it up. Central Texas, always hot. Central Texas. I'm gonna assume Central Texas means around Dallas. If I'm looking at Texas right, that's about center of the state. So I'm thinking around Dallas. I was there when I was very, very little. The main thing I remember, I went up this, it was a tall building that had a round sphere on it, and there was a restaurant up top, and where you dined, the floor moved around in a circle. And I remember them saying, be careful when you step down because the floor was moving. And every hour it would do 360 degrees, and you would eat out in that. And I forget what the name of that building was called, but it was in Dallas. And you went up and you ate dinner up there, and it would show the whole city. I thought that was pretty cool. North Austin. North of Austin. Okay, Jupe, I'm going to go get that guitar so you can see it. I didn't see you post that you definitely wanted to see it, but I'll go get the Fender. So here's the Fender case, and it is one of the nice Fender cases, the injected molder. Got the little feeties on it, and they interlock. So if you have multiple Fender cases, it'll lock in. It's got the nice pieces here. Still got the tags on it. So let me spin it around here. Hopefully it'll show up in the camera. And there's the guitar. Beautiful guitar. Let me spin it around, I'll get it out of the case. Actually, I'm going to set it on the ground here. It is a stunning guitar. And on the back plate, you can see it's the 40th anniversary. And it's got the 2 wood hole there for the truss rod adjustment. And this is an aluminum pick guard, so it acts as your shielding. And it's actually pretty decent as far as the tune. And it has not been out of the box since I bought it. I brought it home. Well, it was actually shipped to me. I took it out of the box. I played it for about 10 minutes. And I put it right in its case that was shipped with it. I haven't really played it. I bought it for review. It really is a stunning guitar. I was thinking about maybe holding on to the guitar. Since it is a limited edition guitar, it might be worth money in the future. I don't know if that's the case. I know some of the other Squiers now are selling $700-800 for some of their limited edition stuff. So I don't know if this would be one of them that would ever get to that value point. But if you look at what you're getting versus the Fender, these 40th anniversaries, they have so much to offer. Like I said, it's got the nice pick guard, the upgraded pickups, the switch, everything in it. It's just solid. The neck on this guitar, it is just unbelievably smooth. It is butter smooth. The fretwork on it, it's nice. There's no sharp fret ends. Now earlier I was talking about that one guitar I picked up, the Squier there. Remember I said there was no sharp fret ends? This one there's no sharp fret ends, but the fret ends are more dressed. They just feel more comfy running your fingers back and forth on the frets. It's a little bit more refined than the Nashville Telly. So it's a solid instrument. Let me see what Jupe's saying. I'm in Florida, or no, Rhode Island. We get single-digit temps with minus temps and wind chills. Yeah, my brother lives in Michigan, and it gets cold up there. So, yeah, I don't go up to visit very often. I'm not a big fan of the 0 and negative digit wind chills.
Jupe
But that
wants to know what's your asking price.
Usually it's whatever the channel. I'll set the guitar. It's whatever the channel has on it. We don't do the shipping, so whatever we paid for the guitar and the case, and we don't do. Usually the video will cover the shipping costs. Usually my videos, after 6 months I make 50, 60, 70 bucks on each video. I think I've got one or two that's done 100. So we just try to break even, if that makes sense. I'd have to go back and look at what we paid for the guitar. But I would set it up for you and address anything that you'd want to address it if you want the guitar. And of course I have to do the review on it. But if you wanted it set up a certain way, I would do that for you. And like I said, it's got the new case as well, and that's the Fender injection molded case. And it's a perfect fit for it. I can't remember, the tag is probably still on the case. Let me look at the case here, the case was, yeah, the case was $220 just for the case. So I think the guitars were going for like $350, something like that. So you'd probably be in the $500 range, $550 range, something like that. If you're interested in it. I could be wrong on the guitar, but I want to say they were in the $350 range, somewhere in that ballpark. I know when they first come out, they were like $599. No one bought them. Then they went to $499, and then I think they kept going down, and eventually they started selling. But when this model first came out, they were literally $600, and people just really stayed away from them. They were like, "You want $600 for a Squier?" And I think the guitar would have sold. It has a lot of features. If you compare that to like the cheaper Fender, what is it, the Player? This is a far better guitar than the Fender Player. It just is. I've played the Fender Player. The neck and stuff on this guitar is better. It sounds better. So it's just the name on the neck that hurt it. I think if they would have done another run at like maybe $499, okay, brought that guitar out, and maybe in 2 or 3 years or a year, come out with a little bit nicer model with some other dressings, they could have pushed that price point. But I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot when they first brought it out at $5.99. But I want to say we got $5.50 or so in it with the case and the guitar. I'd have to go back and look. But if you're in that ballpark for something like that, I'd give you a free setup on it and then tweak it however way you'd want. Like I said, it's brand new. The channel does the review on it, and I just try to sell off the instruments to fund the next guitar. That's what we do on the channel, and that's why you'll see I try to stick with guitars under 800. The more expensive the guitar gets, the more the channel has to eat, if that makes sense. It's hard for me to buy a $1,200 guitar, do a review on it, do a setup, and then have someone pay $1,200 for it. And it makes no sense because the guitar is new. So if you call Sweetwater and you get the guitar at Sweetwater, they're going to charge you an extra $200 for a plec. And now I think they've got a $100 charge just for a standard setup. I guess it's Sweetwater, and then people look at it as, well, no one knows you. But there's Devastator was in the group earlier. If you have any questions on how I set up a guitar and how well one of my guitars play, Devastator has one of the guitars that I set up per his spec. And if he's still in the chat, he can tell you what he feels that he got. And he paid basically what I paid for that instrument and set it up and sent it to him. So I know he was in the chat earlier. I don't know whether he's still here or not. But he can give you a right-on impression. There's also someone else. What was the guy with the real funny name that we did the Harley Benton for? I can't remember his name. He was in the chat, I think, the second live stream we did.
Smoothie Buns.
Oh, Smoothie Buns. So if you guys see Smoothie Buns in the chat, you can also ask Smoothie Buns. We've done a setup for him as well. And somebody else. There's been a couple, and I can't remember everyone that I've set up guitars for. Yeah, if you go to my main page, Jupe, if you go under contact information, pull that down, and my email should be there. It's pretty simple. Because CG's emailed me. I never give CG my email. Pretty sure that's how Devastator got a hold of me. You just go to the main page for the channel, click on contact information. It'll say send something via email contact. Click on that, and you should be able to get it. But the email's Dominion Fretworks, right?
Yep.
Yep, it's Dominion Fretworks at gmail.com. Yep, and that should work for you. And like I said, man, I'm not here to make money. I'm just here to review the instrument, do a setup on it. You're going to pay that for it, whether you buy it at Sweetwater or wherever, but you're going to get a free setup out of it, and then I get some content for the channel. And then that also gives me another person, because I'll call you out in 6 months saying, it'll be somebody else. Well, what do you want for that guitar? And I'm going to say, well, Jupe's bought one of our guitars that we set up. And then you'll be just like Devastator and some, Smoothie Buns, some of the other people that's bought guitars. And the more people that do it, the more faith you guys will have. But I do really good work on setting up the guitars. Trust me, you'll like it. And this guitar, like I said, it needs very little. The frets are dressed really well right out of the box. It's better than this one. But it's still, if you want to bring it up to like perfect level like I did Devastator's guitar, his guitar, the frets are just, they're stupid smooth. I went overboard on the frets on that guitar, and I made that thing just, when it left here, it played like butter, and they're stainless steel frets. So I'm sure he's going to get years of playing out of that guitar the way it was set up and the way it was dressed. Stainless steel will hold its shape for a long time. And I see he's commenting, so he's probably giving you the insight on his setup. His was a Firefly. And we actually did videos of that guitar, of me doing the setup for him before it was sent to him. So you can go back and check those videos out too. Zeke says, oh, that one was sweet. I assume you're talking about the Strat.
Yeah, he asked Devastator what guitar he got.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he got the purple Strat. Yeah, that thing was sweet. That was a sweet guitar. But we also did a setup on the purple LP. I think I did a video on. And a local person that watched the channel got that guitar. And I don't remember his sign. But Devastator actually wanted the Les Paul, and it had just sold the week before, and I told him that I had the Strat, so he got the Strat. Both of them great guitars, though. You can't say anything about either guitar. They were great guitars. Yeah, he says it's one of his favorite ones. Yeah, that's a sweet playing guitar. If he took that guitar, if that was my guitar, I would probably put a set of the Yngwie Malmsteen pickups in it. They got a little bit of punch. He has a signature set. You put that signature set in it, and that thing would be a rocker. It rocks now, but if you really wanted to take it to the supreme level, because it plays like a custom shop Fender now. Well, actually, it plays probably better than a custom shop Fender. But if you put those pickups in it, that thing would just be an animal. It would be just an animal. Now I'll read some of the chat here. Yeah, Devastator's the purple sandblasted Firefly. Yeah, that's the one that he got. Smoothie Buns, if you go back, there was a whole, and to be honest with you, I didn't really want to do the guitar, but he begged me to do it. He had a Harley Benton, I think it was an HB 620. It had the cheap, it was not a Floyd Rose Bridge, it was a clone copy, and he wanted to do drop C tuning on it. When you start doing those strange low tunes on a floating bridge, it's really hard to get those guitars set up. And he wanted to change the pickups, put some real grunge pickups in it. We put Guitar Heads single rail pickups in it, and I did a host of work to that bridge. It was here quite a while. It was over 6 months, with me just trying to find the right block, the right spring combination to really make the guitar work with this drop tuning to where it was stable. And I put that guitar together several times, and I just really wasn't happy with the stability of the guitar. And I kept playing with it and kept playing with it, changing the ratios, changing the string gauge, changing how the nut was set to it. And I finally found a sweet spot on the guitar where he could get 2 or 3 different tuning options on it, and it was stable with a floating bridge in both directions. And I was very happy with that guitar when it was sent to him. I met him personally in person and hand dropped off that guitar. And he was in the chat a couple weeks ago and said the guitar is still performing 100%. So that makes me feel good, especially on something that I've only done one time. I've only set a guitar up like that once. Usually, like I said, I steer clear of those alternative tunings, especially those low tunings on a floating bridge. You're usually better off with a fixed bridge. That's why most of those musicians play fixed bridges, because it's just more stable. So I was very happy that the guitar was still working out for him on a floating bridge like that, especially drop C. I'm pretty sure that was I want to say it was a 58 to 12 or 58 to 11s on the string gauges. And that was a 25.5 scale length. So very, very peculiar setup on that guitar to get it right. And I told him, you got to stick with these string gauges. It's that picky. Don't change manufacturers, don't change gauge, and we come up with the manufacturer they wanted, and everything was set for that particular string, that particular manufacturer, and this particular drop tuning. So you got to keep that in mind too, Jupe. So if you want this guitar and you want it set up for 35-40 or half step down, what are you going to be playing the guitar at? I will set the guitar up to for that particular tuning, whether it's half step down for 40, whatever it may be. The guitar needs to be set up that way, and then whatever string that you like, whatever manufacturer and the gauge, that makes a big difference on how the nut's cut, because this one has a nut at the top. So all those things have to be set up to your liking. That way the guitar is right. And Jupe says standard tuning. Okay, that's fine. So then do you play 42 to 9s? Do you play 56 to 10s? You know, that, because then you got to set the nut. You got to follow the nut to where the strings glide properly through the nut for whatever gauge that you play. Right now, I think from the factory, I want to say it's 42s and 9s on it from the factory. Yeah, he's saying he's playing 9s. So, yeah, that's pretty. I play 42 to 9s on all my guitars. So what's next on the topic, guys? I've been missing that all the inside chat. Now, last night we talked about Sykes passing away. Now, not everybody was in the group last night, so if anybody has any comments on that, we're open to discuss that. He was one of my. I liked his guitar playing, and it shocked me when he passed away. So I'm just bringing that. If you didn't know, he was Whitesnake, Blue Murder, and Thin Lizzy, guitar player for all three groups. He was in a band before Thin Lizzy, but I can't really remember. That was some weird name. But he passed away this week. We're starting to lose some great musicians. We've lost quite a few in the last 4 or 5 years. So hopefully we don't lose anybody else. So what did you all think about the new amp settings? Again, this week we're actually playing through a tube amp, and I like the tube amp tone for the live stream, and hopefully I'm not turning off the amp, so me sitting here I can actually hear the power amp humming a little bit, but I don't have the microphone on in front of the cabinet, so hopefully it's not too noisy in the background. And then from last week, now we used this setup last night. That's why it was called the test stream. Last week we had an SM57 here, and this is an SE X1A. I picked this up at Shenandoah Music. That's a free plug for them. Went in, told them what I was using, and I wanted something that I didn't have to be right on the microphone. And they said that this was a really good budget microphone. And I did listen to the stream from last night, and I thought this mic really sounded good compared to last week's stream. It sounds more open, more full, doesn't sound like a bean can. This mic was $100, and that's full retail. I didn't ask for 10% off during my local store. I usually try not to beat them up. Again, I want to support my local store. That doesn't mean I don't buy off Guitar Center, which is an hour away from me. I buy off Sweetwater and also buy off Amazon. But I try to split things up evenly. I want Shenandoah Music, that's my local store, to succeed. I bought my first guitar that I paid for myself off the original owner at Shenandoah. And they had a 3-month layaway, and I really wanted this guitar. It was a Gibson Explorer, and the guitar was $1,600. And this would have been probably $85. And I walked in, I kept playing this guitar every week. I'd come in, I'd play this guitar, and I'd play this guitar. And Roger, he was the salesman at the time, come up, he goes, "You really like that guitar, don't you?" And I said, "I appreciate y'all letting me play something I'll never be able to buy." And he said, "Well, we have a layaway." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's 3 months." I said, "Yeah, it would be $550 each month. I don't even make that in a month." And he goes, "Well, what do you think you could give us a month?" I said, "I could probably give you $100 a month." And he looked at me kind of strange and tilted his head, and he goes, "Well, let me go talk to the owner." He said, "That guitar has been here for years." He said that it's just one of those things. No one really has really accepted the guitar. It was an Explorer, and a lot of country guitar players in the Winchester area at the time, and it was just not a fitting guitar that store could sell. Not that it was a bad instrument. It's just not the right people were coming in that wanted a Gibson Explorer. So the owner agreed to it. And I'll never forget, I was about 9 months in and I didn't have the money for the payment. And I walked in and I said, "Please let me skate this month. I'll give you $50. Here's $50. I think it took me a little over a year and a half to actually pay that guitar off. And Roger made that happen for me. And that's why I'm saying we don't have music stores like that anymore that know the people that come in and really work for you. You can't go into the music store now, sit down and chat with the guys and jam. I really miss that, No one, maybe Shenandoah Music would do that. Well, they have done that for me now. His nephews have bought it, and they've let me go past the 3-month window. And I think building that relationship with your local music store allows that to happen. Support them. You might be surprised what they'll do once they know you and know what you like. That's where I bought this guitar. When the guy come in to trade it in, a lot of music stores might go, "Well, yeah, the guitar's worth that, but I don't really know anyone that's going to want that guitar. It might sit here for 6 months." Now, in this case, I doubt it, since it's a Kramer American and it's all original 86. But when they purchased this guitar off its original owner, what they told me is they already knew that I would be one of the people that comes in that would want that guitar. And they felt that they could resell it. And they were right. As soon as I saw it, and I'm pretty sure that was one of the guitars they let me go more than 3 months on paying for. So getting that relationship with that music store means a lot. I don't even know how I got off on this tangent. But I try to support them. Oh, yeah, we were talking about the mic. So this is a $100 mic. Got it off them. Didn't know anything about it. I value their opinion. So hopefully this mic sounds better than the SM57 we were using. The SM57 is more of an instrument mic, and that's what's on the guitar cabinet. It's doing the job that it should have been doing the last shows, but I didn't have a decent voice mic to hook up, so I promised to try to make the show a little better each week. So this week's improvement was the better microphone and actually miking off my real guitar amp for tinkering around with the guitar. I don't know what we'll do next week. If you guys have something that you think would help the live stream, that we can take it to the next level. I'm kind of a slow learner. I've done much better tonight with the mute buttons over here than I did last night. Last night I was constantly forgetting to flip the buttons. So I was sitting there talking and I had the microphone on the guitar cabinet on and it wasn't even picking me up. And people were like, "We can't hear you, can't hear you." I'd flip that button, then forget to turn off the other mic, and then all the hum was in the background. So what I would like to do, and I've always said this, I like the group to be able to interject things. I think this week what I might try to do is set up to where we can get some web pages, or set it up to where if Devastator or some of the other guys could give me a hand with Skype or Discord. I know that's been brought up quite a bit. Maybe we could start something on Discord and allow more people to come in and actually have a voice, not just a chat, but a voice in it. there's a couple different ways that we could move the live stream forward. So if you guys have any suggestions, if I don't get anything, I think what I want to do is I want to get one more camera actually hooked up to where I can hit a button and maybe I can show the guitar rig, the amplifier during the demos. If I move the camera on its stand, it seems like OBS doesn't like it and it ends up cutting the camera off. I tried it during the first stream and it seems to lock up the stream. So I need to at least figure out how to add a scene on a different camera. So we'll figure something out, and then of course Friday night will be our test stream. So whoever wants to help work the bugs out, that's what we do on Friday night. It's still a hangout, but it's usually a mess, just like last night's stream was. And then we come in, we try to be a little more professional on Saturday nights. Yeah, so I got 2 people says the mic sounds much better. That's good. I prefer this over having that clip-on thing with a wireless. There would have to be some legacy there. So as long as this sounds acceptable and it sounds good, I don't want it to sound like I'm in a bean can. So as long as it sounds semi-professional, we will continue with this microphone and I won't worry about a lapel mic. It just seems like that would be something else to go wrong. This is hardwired right into the board. It's simple and it's easy. So let me go back to the chat. He played on 1 or 2 whole albums, some songs, the 3rd album. Yeah, we're going back to the Sykes thing. Tigers were NWOBHM band.
It's New Wave of British Heavy Metal.
New Wave of British Heavy Metal. I don't know that one.
That's what Tigers of Pantang was. The band's.
Oh, Tigers of Pang Tang. Okay. Yeah, that was the name of the first band. Tigers of Pang Tang. I forgot. Yeah, I knew it was something weird like that. And Jupe says, this way is cool.
Like pioneers.
You know, the old saying is we don't want to reinvent the wheel. And I'm really not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to keep this at a budget. When I said I was going to start doing this, the first couple live streams were really rough. We used I had a little Logitech laptop camera with a built-in microphone. That was the very first one. The first 2 streams, really rough sounding. Then we went to the Mevo, and then using the microphone and the old camera. Then the next stream we had the SM57. So each week it's gotten a little better. So as long as we can continue to do that, guys, I'm happy. It's got to be good enough quality to where when people come in, it doesn't seem like it's amateur hour, even though it is. That's what it is. But I don't want it so bad they're like, oh, I can't listen to that, or the picture's so bad they're like, oh, I can't stand the snow in the background. So hopefully the picture quality is good enough. It's a Mevo. It's supposed to be 4K. Should be decent. Microphone's decent. Got a Yamaha. It's an AG08. It seems to be doing everything I need it to do. It has more features that I haven't gotten into yet. It has some presets for channel 1, I guess, for compression and stuff like that on the microphone. Haven't gotten into any of that. It has 6 pre-recorded somethings. Evidently, I can pre-record something like a clap or a thank you or this or that if someone donates. I don't even know. I haven't been setting that up. Like at the top it says goal, I guess, for super chats. I haven't set any of that up. So I guess if someone gave a super chat, I could hit like button number 1. It would do a woohoo or something, or a clap. I haven't gotten into any of that. And then I still have, with this setup, the guitar is actually going into channel 2. With the line 6, it goes into channel 3 and 4. So I still have 5, 6, and 7, 8 open. And I do have an Akai MPC 61 here. So maybe in the future I can hook the Akai up and we can do some sequencing, maybe some pre-recorded keyboards and some drum sequences and kind of jam along with that. I don't know. It might be getting too technical, but I at least have the channels to add to the system. And that's all that we've done. The SM57 I already had, and I did buy a little boom stand for this. It's actually a kick drum stand.
Read your last comment.
What ammo and
I think it's supposed to be amp.
yeah, what amp and cab are you using? Well, I would like to have a camera on it. I will go through. It's yeah, you're probably, what's an amp? Just tell me what amp it is. Yeah, it is an amp, but it's not like a combo amp. I'll go through my signal path. Okay, the guitar is running into a Synergy SYN2. It's a rack mount 2 cartridge preamplifier, and the cartridges that I'm running, I have the Friedman BE-DLX, which we did not use tonight. Tonight we were using the Sedano Slow in the Friedman. So my guitar goes into the input of the Synergy rack mount preamp. That preamp is running the Sedano cartridge. It goes out of the effects send of that rack mount module into the preamp input of the SGX Applied Research Technology SGX 2000 Express. I also have a twin tube preamp in that's set to medium gain, and all my effects are in that rack mount unit. Going out of the effects loop of the SGX, I go into a BBE 362 Sonic Maximizer, then also into an AMR tube sweetener, rack mount inline tube sweetener. It was designed for ADAs or ADATs to make the sound more fuller, less digital sounding. So it goes out of the AMR back to the return to the SGX. The SGX's output goes to a tube power amplifier, and the tube power amplifier I am running is a BK Butler Pro Valve, and it is loaded with 4 6L6 power amp tubes. I go out of my power amp to a Peavey 4-speaker cabinet that is loaded with 4 Greenback Celestion drivers. So that's the amplifier that you guys are hearing when I play. So we'll do a small sound demo again. It's quite mean sounding. That's the Sedano. It's not quite as mean sounding as the Friedman, but when we tested it last night, the group pretty much said they liked the sound of the Sedano better. And after listening to it post-stream, after YouTube had finished doing what it needed to do to process the video, I will say the Sedano side did sound a little warmer and a little more fuller than the Friedman. And that's probably just in my EQ settings. So that's the rig that we're playing through. If if you want my opinion, if you're buying just a single amp, I've been a rack mount guy for 30 years. Um, when I played professionally out in bars, there was very few people playing full rack mount rigs. That was more for the pro guys that were really out, playing every night or every other night, charging, 5, 6 grand a night. We were at the $2,500 range, somewhere in that ballpark. And the guitar player that I played with, he was playing through a Marshall head and a Marshall cabinet, and he had a Digitech effects unit. My other guitar player I played with had a Marshall, ran a tube screamer in the front of it, and then had an effects loop with some floor pedals. Um, there's so many good amplifiers out there now, modeling amps, that'll do what that whole rack of a stuff that I have will do. If you want that sound that I have, I'm going to tell you, if you want that sound, you got to get those particular type of components that give you that sound. You can model the sound, but it's close, but it's not that sound. And I get that comment a lot in my videos. Wow, that's such an 80s tone, because it's 80s equipment. And that's what they used then. I'm not modeling that sound. That was the sound that everyone tries to model, if that makes any sense. I have tweaked it for a couple of my videos to try to get more of the modern metal tone out of it. And I've come close, but it just lacks something on some of the new modern sounds, on some of the drop tunings. It's most likely that's why I bought the Friedman, and I added that SYN2 to my system. That's something I just added in the last 4 or 5 months. Before, if you look at all my review videos, none of those were done with the Synergy rack mount. That was me going right into the Applied Research Technology preamp. And a lot of people said they didn't like the preamp, the distortion tones on that. If you use it with the 362 and the AMR, you can really get that preamp to sound nice. In its stock form, it did need a little work. This one's been modified by a tech, and it's been tweaked on the preamp section on the 212AX7s. So it's not a stock SGX. It's been, I don't know what the guy did to it, but he definitely made some improvements on it. It still wasn't great, so I added the 362 that really brought it to life. A sonic maximizer, believe me guys, put one of those on your amplifier. You will be surprised at how it will bring your tube amplifier to life. They're inexpensive. You can get the floor mount unit for like 80, 90 bucks. You can get one of the old rack mount units on Reverb for 150 bucks. Believe me, it's not reverb, it's not delay, it's a sonic maximizer. It's like an EQ. You can tweak your low and tweak your high, but it will add so much definition to your sound. That would be the one piece, if you took out of my rig, I would miss the most. Even over my delay, my chorus, my compression, my gate, removing that 362 would really destroy my sound. It's such an integral part of the tone, and that's a lot of things guitar players won't tell you. Most of them have one of those behind their amp and they're not telling you. That, believe me, especially in the 80s and the 90s, it was a trick. And a lot of vocalists use them as well. It really helps vocals and guitars. It was designed for vocals. I don't know who the first guitar player it was that put their guitar through it and said, wow, this is great. But it was actually designed for vocals. So hopefully that answers your question. That's what I use on my amp. I do have a Black Star here that I played for a little while. It's broken. It was a tube amp. When I ran my Black Star, it had an effects loop, and I ran it into a Digitech S200 digital effects processor, and I thought it was great. I could get a lot of nice sounds out of that Black Star. The problem is it just didn't last. The amp didn't hold up. And the amp tech that I took it to, it's got all these micro components on it, and he goes, I just don't want to mess with it. So it's still sitting here broken. And I have an Egnator 2-channel Renegade. Again, great amplifier. I think you could take that amplifier and put a nice effects processor behind it. You could play anywhere with it. It's I think that amp is 60 watt, and it has 3 settings. I think it can go 60, 30, and 5. Great amplifier. It's got a clean channel, got a dirt channel. You want to watch Egnator. Past 2010, 2011, they started having problems with their transformers burning out. So I would say anything 2011 and older, great. Anything newer than that, you probably want to see if the transformer's been replaced or if it's in true working order. I don't even know if Egnator still makes amps anymore. If anyone knows about the Egnator stuff. Dean, I'm trying to catch up. Seems like that finger is doing... Yeah, it's almost healed. If y'all can see. The last 2 weeks I've been really babying my finger. This week it's still a little sore, but I'm able to play. So I'm going to go back and start doing reviews again. I'll hopefully get the Firefly over here, get the demo section actually done on that last review since I hurt my finger. Might try to do that this week. Got a bunch of different things, but it's probably going to take at least another week for it to completely heal. About 3 weeks. So the finger is doing much better. You know, John Sykes, I don't know if I know any of his riffs. I'm sure that I've taken things from his playing style. We kind of touched base on that last night. A lot of people think that I'm a big Eddie Van Halen guy. I'm actually not. I know that he's a great guitar player, but I only know maybe 2 or 3 of his songs, and I probably don't know the whole song, and I'm probably not playing them correct. Just the music that I know, if I know the song, that means the band played it. And I know that sounds horrible, but I never learned a song, ever learned a song, unless the band had it on the set list. I would learn the song, and as long as the band was playing that song, I kept up on it. As soon as it went off the set list, didn't care. Pick another song, I'd learn that song. So, in reality, guys, I would say I've probably only learned, I'm going to say 300 songs. And you're probably thinking, that's a lot of songs. How many songs could I remember and actually play right now? Maybe 20. 25. And I probably couldn't play those 20 or 25 all the way through. When you're a working musician, you learn what you need to learn, you play it out, then you move on. You learn your next. But every time you learn something, you don't realize it. You get that muscle memory, okay? Especially if you like it. And you learn it, you get that muscle memory, and then when you start playing originals and you're goofing off, you don't even realize what you've taken from this song or that song or this song. And you develop your own style. And I think that's very important, that you develop your own unique style for you, not for anyone else. Do it for you. You'd be surprised, man. If you get into what you are doing and you're having fun, there's going to be someone out there and a group of people out there that like it. Because it's not just going to be that you that likes it. You know, someone's going to like it. And as long as your heart is going into it, odds are you're going to be liked. Because you're playing something that you enjoy doing. And if you enjoy it, like I just said, you're putting your heart in it, you're putting your soul in it, and people can tell that. You're not up there like a robot just going through the motions. And I think that happens with a lot of bands. They learn X to get out and play, and their heart's not in it, and they end up just sounding like every other group up there playing it. As a group, you have to mesh well together, and you have to play things that you're interested in, and you have to play off your audience. If your audience isn't getting into it, and you're in your third or fourth song, it's time to look at your set list and go, they're not responding well to this. Let's pull from what we did 6 months ago or last year. We still know these songs well enough. Let's do a shift and see how the audience responds. Maybe throw a carrot out, throw 1 or 2 songs out, see how they respond to it, and move to what the response that you're getting from where you're playing. It makes for a long night if you show up and you only know 30 songs and you're in your second song and they're about ready to throw beer bottles at you. That can make a long night. And if you're stuck in that set list, you're gonna have a rough night. That's why I always say you gotta know more than 30 songs. You gotta have some backup material there in case the place isn't what you thought. Maybe a different group of people come on a certain night than another night. So you got to have some songs to pick from. And the longer you're with that group, the better. Because you don't all necessarily have to know the song. As long as one person knows the song and you've learned how to follow, there's only so many notes, guys. There's only 7 notes. Just different variations of those notes. Pay attention to your rhythm guitar player, your bass player, your drummer. Learn how to work together as a group. And if you know the song 60, 70%, believe me, if you're a good band, you can pull through the night playing that way. The audience isn't going to tell. It's better to do that than to stick with a set list that you know note for note that no one is into, that's not enjoying the show. If that makes any sense whatsoever. And that comes with time. You can't change your lead guitar player and your bass player and your drummer every 6 months and ever get to that point. You got to mesh as a group. And there's no reason why you can't. If you guys all have the same goal and you're wanting to do the same thing, you should mesh as a group, if that makes sense. And Dean says, agreed 100%. Yeah, you got to have your own style, man. That's what it's about. A great set list is essential. Now, there's a way of cheating, too. We used to do this a lot. If we knew we were playing this place or that place, and we had 6 months before our gig, we would go. We'd go on a Friday night. And we would sit in just like a Patreon. We'd sit there, have a beer, listen to the band, look at the reaction of the people. Oh, they like this song. Oh, they like this song. Oh, look. Everyone just sat down. They're like, eh. They're going up to the bar to get new beer. Well, they don't like that song. You just pay attention to the audience. And you'll start seeing, you go over to this place, all you think about playing over here. And you go, hey, they're liking this song here too, and this song didn't do too well here. And after you go 5 or 6 places, now this is only good for 6 or 7 months, guys, because things come and go. But you'll get a good idea of what the audience is responding to and what they're not responding to. And sometimes those old songs, sometimes you get a good response, sometimes you don't. It depends on the people. But you can get an average read after you start going places and keep a list. Okay, you know you're playing this particular region. This particular region is liking this particular type stuff. You've went there, you've scoped it out, you've got your little list. So now you're prepared. If you've got a gig there in 4 months, I'm not saying that all that your preparation is going to be perfect. It could be a completely different crowd there that night. But at least you know you've went in a 20-mile radius to 3 or 4 different places, and you've got an idea of what they like. You compare that to your set list, maybe add a couple songs that you feel are in the same genre and the same feel, throw those in, and then throw in what the other bands were doing. You know, like I said, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're being hired for entertainment so the bar can sell beer. they don't sell beer, they can't pay you. So your job is to entertain and keep the waitresses busy. Keep them busy selling beer, because the bar will bring you back. If they make money and the people are there and they're buying beer and people are having a good time, you will be asked back. So when you're up there, tell them, tip your waitress, get to the bar, do your job to help them out, if that makes sense. The bar will have you back, especially nowadays. The music scene's dying off. You got to help the bar. They can't pay you if they're not making money. The old saying. Go back to the chat. Great set list is essential. I like playing 70s pop rock and feel good songs in the band. Play music that make people dance. You're right. Now, another trick. You can play all the head-banging Metallica music that you love, but if the women don't show up and dance, guess what? If the women go to the bar and they're dancing, guess who's going to come? The guys. Okay? I hate to say it, but it's true. I knew several bands that were phenomenal heavy metal bands, but they didn't draw a crowd. Why? Because it was all dudes showing up. When I was young, I wanted to go to the bar. You pick up women. That's what you went for. I hate to say that, but that's just the rule of the bar scene. You're playing out. It's a game. So you got to play the music the women like, to get up and get them dancing. Again, when they're dancing, they're buying drinks. It's making the bar money, and there's women there. The guys are going to come. They're going to be buying beer. The bar's going to like you. You're coming back. So that's a really good point. I agree with that 100%. It's a business, guys. But again, we have to enjoy what we're doing. So if you don't enjoy playing that kind of music, playing the thrash metal to a bunch of dudes in a bar with 50 people, that might be fine for you, if that's what you enjoy doing. But if you're trying to make a living and you don't have your own album and people don't know you, you've got to get the women in the bar, to get the guys in the bar, to sell the beer so the bar brings you back. There's several different ways to look at it. And I think I said it last night. Playing a bar with, we're going to say 200 people and under, is the hardest thing to do, because you only have 200 people. It's a smaller bar. You got to have a large set list. They're not there because they necessarily know you. It's not a big venue. They're going to the bar because it's live music. And they're hoping the band's going to be good and the women are going to be dancing. It's going to be a good time. For that to take place, you have to have a variety of music that you can play to feel the mood of the bar that night. Live music in bars is dead in northern Michigan. Yes, it is pretty much dead where I'm at here as well. And I hate to say that. And a lot of it is just because, well, we did have a little resurgence on open mic night. And karaoke kind of brought that to pass. You were doing karaoke, and then the bars kind of opened up for open mic. And as long as you had a strong band doing the open mic, not saying that you didn't have people got up that couldn't play, but as long as you had a strong band backing that particular person, you could pull it off. And most people going to the open mic, they kind of knew what to expect, if that makes sense. That was big here until about 3 years ago. There's not too many open mics here anymore either. And that's sad. So I don't know about anybody else, what their area is doing. But yeah, live music is just about like going into your local Guitar Center, sitting down and jamming and doing, just talking to people. The whole, everything has changed, guys. It has changed so much. Even in the last 5 years, we've seen so many changes. Devastator says, we have a great bar here in Little Rock called The Hall. We have been getting a lot of 80s and early 90s rock bands coming in and killing it. Okay, we need an address, and everyone's moving to where Devastator lives. That's what we're doing. They've already established the scene, so we're set to go right there.
Read who the last one I saw was.
Killing it. The last one we saw was Yngwie Malmsteen. I'm liking that. I can't play like Yngwie Malmsteen, but what I can do the Milli Vanilli thing. Okay, we'll put the tape player on in the back, and I'll just get up there, and no one will ever know. I mean, Milli Vanilli got away with it for like 2 years before they were busted. No, I would never do that, but it's still funny. Yeah, Yngwie Malmsteen. I'm trying to think locally. Um, what was that band that's coming locally that you just said that's coming up that you wanted to go see? There was somebody pretty large coming here locally. I can't remember who it was. Um, I don't. Occasionally, you do get large bands coming in, but the scene, and I'm pretty fortunate. I'm in Northern Virginia, so there are still large venues down there to play. But your smaller bands, they don't really have the opportunity to go in there and play those venues. You,
Whitesnake and Kix was here a few years ago.
yeah, White Snake and somebody else was just here 2 years ago. She said.
Kix.
Kicks. Well, Steve lives 20 minutes away from me, so um, I I know Steve, from local bars and stuff. There's this area. There's been a lot of very large people. What was it? The drummer from Godsmack. He 20 minutes again away from where I live. Played with a lot of those guys back in the what was it? The Wrathchild America days. There was Wrathchild, and then they got some kind of trouble, and it went Wrathchild America, and then he ended up quitting and going to Ugly Kid Joe. But that was years ago. So many musicians from this area went on to do great things. I can't even think of his name now. He plays with Godsmack now, the drummer. He's the local guy. Of course, Steve Whiteman. He was a local guy from Kix. Just Terry Whiteman, another phenomenal musician, local guy. I'm missing so many that were Maryland, D.C., Northern Virginia, Pennsylvania.
Devastator said Shannon Larkin.
Yeah, Shannon Larkin. That's his name. Yeah. His sister still works at the McDonald's down the road here. I haven't seen her in a couple of years, but we're good friends with her for a long time. It's funny. Growing up, we see these people and we put them on a different pedestal. And it's so funny if you talk to people that knew them and when they were pushing through and they made it big, and you hear stories. I hear stories of other musicians that played with this person and that person. Oh, he was so down to earth. Everyone that I ever played with was always down to earth. I never really played with any people that were stuck up or they might have been a little harsh, but they were never awful to me. I've always been pretty fortunate playing locally, and got to see and play with a lot of people that I look back on. It's like I was so fortunate, really fortunate to be able to be around some of the people. Of course, I'm still sitting here. I never made it. I had to make a decision. Music was hard back then. I made a decision to go out and have a different professional career over music. That was a decision that I made. Not saying that I regret it. I had kids, and I had to, play it straight and easy and have a 9-to-5 job and support my family. So that's what I ended up doing. Dean says, Yngwie Malmsteen opened for Triumph in 1987. I bet you that was a cool show. Triumph was awesome back in the day. That dude could sing. Well, he could also play the guitar, but awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, I loved open mic. Raffle stops. Like I did a lot of open mic in the Village in New York City. My brother, like I said, he lives in Michigan, And the road, I don't remember the road that he lives on, but they were telling me that Kid Rock's only like 5 minutes away from his house, his main house. And they always knew when he was home because on Saturday mornings, everybody with motorcycles would pile up in his front yard and all the motorcycles would go by, and it was Kid Rock and all the guys that were following him around. And they would say in the local town that they would have open mic, and Kid Rock would just show up to the open mic. You know, everyone knew who he was. He was just a local dude that made it big. He would just show up to the open mic and sing. Every time I've went up there and did open mic, I've never seen him. I would love to see him. But they would tell me stories that, yeah, Kid Rock was down here last weekend. He did open mic. He'd just sit there and have a beer with you and have fun. He was, you know, evidently just a down-to-earth, cool dude. He started a brewery in that town because there wasn't any work at the time. And he invested money in a brewery right outside of town, and people that lived there could work there. So I thought that was stupid cool of him. Just a down-to-earth guy from what I understand. And I think they're all like that. I really do. They got to go out and have fun too. They're not going to be all professional. I'm sure they're going to open mic. They're going to jam sessions. They're going out to eat. They've got a life too, just like we do. Dean says Emmett, Irk Emmett, is now 70 and is pretty much retired from touring. But he just put out a new
album.
Oh yeah, it's a little album. Telecaster tunes. I saw it looked like a circle. It looked like an eyeball at first from here. My screen is way far away. That's why I'm leaning over to be able to read it. The print's like this tall. I can barely see it. I'm not familiar with that artist, believe it or not.
I think he's from Triumph.
Oh, it might, yeah. Linnell says he might be from Triumph.
Yeah, because he mentioned him earlier.
Yeah. Is that the lead singer? Well, the guy, what was it that did, what was it? He helped Bon Jovi write some of his songs. It was Just a Fantasy. Dun, 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 dun. What was that guy's name wrote that song? He's been touring out quite a bit. I can't remember the guy's name. He tried a solo album in the late 80s and had like one or two, yeah, Alpha Nova. That dude is stupid talented. And I didn't even know that he produced that song. It was right after he helped Bon Jovi do that stuff. And the video was him at a carnival singing. And it looks nothing like he did when he did his own stuff. He had the long hair, did the 80s makeup. He looked like an 80s rocker. He did like 3 or 4 videos and it didn't do too well and he kind of disappeared. But he has actually helped a lot of artists over the years write guitar parts. He wrote a lot of songs as far as the lyrical structure, and other artists would sing it. I didn't realize how talented that musician actually was. Top-notch guy. He is still playing. I just saw one of his videos, and I found it comical. He is actually playing the Epiphone Alex License model. And I had just done the review, and I said, this is a working man's guitar. You can get all these different sounds out of this Les Paul. And it was a couple days later, I was on YouTube, and I saw this live show of him playing, and he had the Alex License Les Paul up there playing it. And I'm like, well, there's proof. There's a professional musician, a very talented guy, playing that guitar live on stage and getting all these different sounds out of it. I just thought that was amazing. He's an amazing artist. I had spoke to Jedi Jingle Maker. Now I know he changed his name here to
Honey Tap.
Honey Tap or something, and he had contacted me I don't know, probably 9 months ago on getting a bunch of YouTube guys together and doing a remake. And I wanted to do Just a Fantasy by Alpha Nova. And he was like, oh, that'd be a cool idea. But nothing ever become of it. It seemed like nobody else was interested in doing a modern take on that song. I thought it would have been cool, but it didn't go anywhere. And then Dean says Alpha Nova is the stage name of Alpha.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I can't even pronounce. I am horrible. English I speak, it's my primary language, but I'm horrible at pronunciation and stuff like that. That's why you'll see me stutter so much on reading people's names. I'm horrible at it. Yeah, but he's a talented artist. I don't know what took place there, but it's almost like the industry. He must have done something in the industry, and they kind of pushed away from him, because he had some incredible music. And Kurt Sinscale says, I use a 55-inch TV hooked up to my computer for running a Prino Studio One. I'm old and can't see for shit.
He said you need a bigger monitor.
I do need a bigger. Well, part of the problem is, guys, I could probably make the chat bigger, but I have on my OBS, my VU meters on this part of the screen. Then I have the camera angle here, properties. Then I got a YouTube window. I got so many different things on this thing that I'm keeping track of. The viewer count. If anyone does a super chat, it keeps a chat on a tab on that. Then I've got the chat window. So out of my 32-inch monitor, my chat window is taking up just the little corner on the bottom. I could probably scoot it and make it bigger, but then I'd be worried that I'd miss something else that's going on in OBS. But yeah, I could probably do a split monitor and just have the chat in one and still have, just haven't gotten that far yet.
It's after 11.
Yep, Linnell just said it's after 11, guys. So we've actually had a pretty long hangout tonight.
Yeah, about 3 hours.
Yeah, it's been over 3 hours probably. I'm trying to look at where my window tells me time. I got too many windows open here. But it's been a long session tonight, guys. So hopefully everyone enjoyed it. I don't want to sit here and play guitar that much because it's more of a hangout, but I do enjoy playing the guitar. And we brought out the classic Pacer Imperial for tonight. So maybe next weekend we can bring out another classic guitar and do some jamming on it. I thought that would be a fun addition to the live stream to play on a guitar that's just iconic. The Pacer Imperial is an iconic guitar, and I enjoyed playing it a little bit tonight. It needed a little love, so I gave it some love. It's happy now. But I want to thank everybody that's participated and made comments in the chat and all the little emojis. YouTube keeps account of all that and scales the live stream. Emojis, all that stuff. Every time you put a comment in and you hit the like button, it keeps track of all that. And then it determines whether or not the video is worth pushing out. So I appreciate everyone. You can't believe it. I can't believe how well you guys have responded to the live stream. And I've enjoyed doing it. So again, next Friday night, we'll do a test stream. That's where we'll play with everything and we'll add something and try to add something to the stream, work the bugs out. Some nights on Friday nights, it's a complete train wreck. Sometimes it's not. So Friday night will be a test stream. And then we'll do our regular stream on Saturday night, just like this one, where hopefully I've got all the bugs worked out on whatever was changed and we can hang out and have a good time. But thanks again, guys. On the way out, hit the like button, and I'll see you guys next Saturday. And we'll have a new video out sometime this week, and it'll be putting strap locks on Short Bus's LP guitar. Thanks again, guys. Thanks for coming and chilling out and chatting.